Chapter 69. Entering the palace. Jiang Peihuan had convinced herself that she would no longer harbor feelings for sweet nothings of love in this lifetime, yet upon hearing "I have feelings for you," her heart unexpectedly fluttered. When she was hugged by Xiao Nanye, she could scent the crisp fragrance wafting from him, a scent that she found oddly captivating. She couldn't resist reaching out, but even before her hand touched Xiao Nanye, he released her. Meeting her gaze, he smiled softly, his eyes brimming with mirth. "Huan I know you aren't in love with me yet, but it's all right. I'll gradually make you fall for me." Hearing his words, Jiang Peihuan fell silent. After a significant pause, she looked at the man before her and asked, "Is there anything you need me to do regarding this matter?" "No, there's no need." Locking eyes with her, Xiao Nanye went on, "You don't have to do anything. The mere opportunity for me to love you is more than enough." Xiao Nanye didn't linger much longer. After exchanging a few words with Jiang Peihuan, he promptly left the general's mansion. Watching the man's retreating figure, Jiang Peihuan's eyes held a hint of complexity, yet there was an inexplicable happiness tugging at her heart. Could he be different? "Master, where are we going now?" As soon as he saw Xiao Nanye emerge, Han Feng quickly approached. "To the palace." Leaving these words behind, Xiao Nanye hopped on Zui Yun, directing it towards the palace. Xiao Nanye headed straight for the Palace of Heavenly Purity, but Emperor Qiming was absent. Learning that the emperor had visited the Empress Kuanning Palace, Xiao Nanye promptly rerouted to the Empress Kuanning Palace in Kuanning Palace. As the empress was about to discuss Jiang Peihuan with the emperor, she heard her maid announce King Cheng's arrival. Before the empress had a chance to speak, Emperor Qiming chuckled, "What brings the young man here?" Xiao Nanye strode into the room. Emperor Qiming and the empress were preparing for their meal. Seeing the array of dishes on the table, Xiao Nanye pulled out a chair and sat down. He looked at the empress and said, "Imperial sister-in-law, I've always heard about the delightful food in your palace. I finally got the chance to join today. You can't possibly send me away." Hearing Xiao Nanye's words, a gentle smile formed on the empress' face. "You're a grown man, yet you behave like a child." She then directed her gaze at a palace maid, "Quickly, bring a set of bowls and chopsticks for King Cheng." Shortly after, a clean pair of bowls and chopsticks was placed before Xiao Nanye. Once Emperor Qiming picked up his chopsticks, Xiao Nanye started eating. He ate carelessly as if he was in his own home. Even after Emperor Qiming and the empress had finished eating, he continued to eat a few more bites. Having finished his meal, Xiao Nanye grinned, "The food here indeed tastes wonderful. If you enjoy it, feel free to visit every day. Anything you wish to eat, I'll have it prepared." "That might not work. It's fine to freeload occasionally, but if I come daily, the emperor might chase me away." "You're talking nonsense. When have I ever chased you out? You never have, yet. Who knows about the future? You. Enough, leave now. You're giving me a headache." "Imperial sister-in-law, see? The emperor is indeed starting to chase me away." The empress laughed upon hearing this but chose to remain silent. While others might not understand, she knew better than anyone the level of affection and indulgence the emperor had for his younger brother. After the palace maids and servants cleared away the food, the empress summoned for tea. After a sip of tea, Xiao Nanye turned to Emperor Qiming, "Imperial brother, I heard Jiang Hong willingly surrendered his command seal?" "Correct." The emperor wasn't surprised that Xiao Nanye knew this, as he was the one who spread the news. Hearing Emperor Qiming's words, Xiao Nanye casually replied, "It appears that Jiang Hong is indeed devoted to you. I truly appreciate his loyalty. By the way, I am considering bringing Jiang Hong's eldest daughter into the palace. What's your opinion on this?" As he spoke, Emperor Qiming's gaze fell on Xiao Nanye. Hearing the emperor's words, Xiao Nanye's fingers subtly brushed his cup before responding, "I'm not particularly keen on the idea." "Why?" Upon hearing Xiao Nanye's response, Emperor Qiming quirked an eyebrow. "If you genuinely want me to express my thoughts, I will, Imperial brother. But remember, if I say something you disagree with, you can't blame me. When have you ever been so timid in my presence, you little bastard? Imperial brother, you are still young and in your prime. By bringing Jiang Hong's eldest daughter into the palace and potentially having her bear a prince, Don't you worry that the Jiang family could be swept into a battle for the throne? Upon hearing these words, Emperor Qi Ming's brow furrowed. After a moment of silence, he turned to Xiao Nanya. And what if I don't allow her the chance to have a child? If Jiang Hong's eldest daughter doesn't bear a prince, it could potentially avoid the conflict, to an extent. But the moment Jiang Hong's eldest daughter entered the palace, the Jiang family became unavoidably entangled with the royal family. Regardless of whether there's a prince or not, they could still choose sides, couldn't they? Therefore, Imperial brother, the best strategy might be to separate the Jiang family from the royal family. Your point isn't wrong, but this would result in the Jiang family escaping my control. Imperial brother, your intention to bring Jiang Hong's eldest daughter into the palace, was it primarily to keep a handle on Jiang Hong? Precisely. Seeing Emperor Qi Ming's affirmation, Xiao Nanya proceeded, in that case, you could simply grant me the privilege to marry Jiang Hong's eldest daughter. To grant you a marriage? At Xiao Nanya's suggestion, Emperor Qi Ming was stunned. If it weren't for the candid look in Xiao Nanya's eyes, he would have suspected a scheme at play. Yet, even so, Emperor Qi Ming regarded Xiao Nanya with a hint of uncertainty. Why would you want to marry Jiang Hong's daughter? It's not that I desire to marry Jiang Hong's daughter, rather, I wish to assist you, Imperial brother. In response to Emperor Qi Ming's puzzled expression, Xiao Nanya narrated how he had saved Jiang Peihuan, then continued, everyone under the heavens knows I am your blood brother, and in many ways, I am a representation of you. Thus, if I marry the eldest daughter of the Jiang family, the family would still remain within your grasp, Imperial brother. Plus, this would also mean that the Jiang family would lose their chance to meddle with imperial power. Upon hearing Xiao Nanya's words, Emperor Qi Ming fell deep in thought. Xiao Nanya stayed silent, occasionally glancing at the emperor with subtle unease. After an indefinite period, Emperor Qi Ming turned to Xiao Nanya. Tell me honestly, do you have any other motives besides wanting to assist me? Heh. Meeting Emperor Qi Ming's gaze, Xiao Nanya chuckled, his smile sycophantic. Then, he spoke in a hushed tone, I've seen the eldest daughter of the Jiang family. She's rather fetching. You. Emperor Qi Ming pointed at Xiao Nanya and huffed with vexation. Enough already, you're not wrong in this. I will issue a decree to grant the eldest daughter of the Jiang family to you as your wife. Chapter 70. Bestowed marriage you brat, it seems I haven't spoiled you for nothing all these years. Towards the end of his words, Emperor Qi Ming's gaze on Xiao Nanya softened. Xiao Nanya rose from his chair, finishing the tea in front of him with a swift gulp. He then addressed Emperor Qi Ming, if my imperial brother feels guilty, he can always give me more jewels. You brat still dare to say. You're on the verge of emptying my private treasury. I don't care. I take it as consent from my imperial brother. With a casual wave to Emperor Qi Ming, Xiao Nanya strode towards the exit. Watching his retreating figure, a helpless look flashed in Emperor Qi Ming's eyes. Shortly after, the Empress approached and sat beside him. Watching the Empress take her seat, Emperor Qi Ming murmured, let's drop the idea of bringing the eldest daughter of the Jiang family to the palace. This. Why would your majesty suddenly change his mind? Hearing Emperor Qi Ming's words, the Empress appeared startled. The Emperor uttered a few words and then calmly declared, I've decided to grant Jiang Hong's eldest daughter to Nanya as his principal wife. Following your majesty's words, we ought to prepare a generous wedding gift for the young man. Emperor Qi Ming acted quickly. That very night, the Jiang residents received a decree from the palace. Wang Kuan personally delivered and announced the decree. Surveying the Jiang family members kneeling on the floor, he unfurled the decree. It's known that the general's eldest daughter is exceptionally wise, a model among young ladies. Hence, today, Jiang Peihuan, the eldest daughter of the Jiang family, is bestowed to King Cheng as his principal wife. The wedding is to be held in 3 months' time. Upon hearing the words bestowed to King Cheng as the principal wife, Jiang Peihuan's heart began to pound wildly. Jiang Hong and his wife, Shui Yang, however, breathed a sigh of relief. Apart from those of the first branch, everyone in the Jiang family displayed surprise initially, but then their faces lit up with smiles. However, among them, Zhu Rongfang was an exception. Seeing the imperial messenger beaming at the members of the first branch, jealousy flashed in her eyes. Eunuch Wang, thank you for taking the trouble to come here. You must be tired, please come inside for some tea. Jiang Hong approached Wang Kuan, a smile gracing his lips. The great general is too kind. The emperor is awaiting my return to report back. Then, please allow me to send you off. As he spoke, Jiang Hong moved forward, his hand closing around Wang Kun's. In a seamless movement, he slid a small pouch into Wang Kun's hand. Wang Kuan weighed the pouch. It was nearly weightless. Clearly, it contained banknotes. He stuffed the pouch into his sleeve and the smile in his eyes became even brighter. Great General. I'll return to the palace now. Once the palace members departed, Jiang Hong turned to his wife and said, Yang you can rest assured now. The imperial decree has been issued. Huan won't be entering the palace. Enter the palace? What palace? Jiang Hong's voice was barely a whisper, yet Zhu Rongfang managed to catch it. She started mumbling to herself, voicing her confusion. Jiang Hong frowned upon hearing this. Seeing his two younger brothers' eyes on him, he decided to clarify the situation. The revelation left everyone present with looks of surprise. Only Liu Xiu, looking at Shui Yang with a full-faced smile, said, Sister-in-law, judging by all this, King Cheng genuinely cherishes Huan. If Huan truly becomes part of King Chen household in the future, I'm sure King Cheng will treat her kindly. Hearing Liu Xiu's words cased some of the worry from Shui Yang's heart. But before she could respond, Zhu Rongfang interjected, King Cheng is the emperor's uncle, and Huan's marriage was called off by Huainan Mansion. Moreover, Huan's future childbirth will be difficult. Shut up. Jiang Yuan snapped, interrupting Zhu Rongfang, his eyes filled with icy disdain. Jiang Hong had always been tolerant of his sister-in-law for his brother Jiang Yuan's sake. But Zhu Rongfang's words caused an unpleasant expression to creep onto his face. Finding it inappropriate to lash out at a woman, he directed his ire towards his younger brother, Jiang Yuan, if you can't control your wife, you'd better resign from your position and come home before you bring misfortune upon the Jiang family. Big brother, I'm sorry, Jiang Yuan said, his eyes filled with remorse. Zhu Rongfang, on the other hand, looked resentful. Ignoring Jiang Yuan's attempts to restrain her, she retorted, Uncle, there's no need to defend Jiang Yuan. Everything I've said is true. If you don't believe me. A crisp slap echoed through the room. Jiang Peihuan's eyes brimmed with a cold fury. However, she held her tongue in front of the family elders. As she struggled to contain her anger, she saw her mother stride forward and deliver a sharp slap to Zhu Rongfang's face. Despite their private disputes, physical altercations were unheard of among the Jiang family. Zhu Rongfang, her hand on her reddening cheek, stood there stunned. Coming back to her senses, she lunged at Shui Yang. You, Shui, dare to hit me? Who do you think you are? You have the audacity to harm my Huan. I'll make you pay for it today, retorted Shui Yang. Having been trained in martial arts since her childhood, Shui Yang found Zhu Rongfang an easy opponent. She firmly grasped Zhu Rongfang's hand, striking her several more times with her free hand. Before long, the vivid imprint of 5 fingers appeared on Zhu Rongfang's face. Shui Yang, with a forceful push, sent Zhu Rongfang sprawling to the ground. Driven to the brink of madness, Zhu Rongfang picked herself up from the floor, her eyes wild with rage as she lunged at Shui Yang. Witnessing this scene, Jiang Peihuan could hold back no longer. She stepped forward, placing herself between Zhu Rongfang and Shui Yang. Second aunt, I sentee this too much, she protested. Too much? Zhu Rongfang retorted, her voice heavy with sarcasm. Jiang Peihuan, didn't you see it was your mother who threw the first blow? Or have you become so arrogant, now that you're to be a queen, that you think you can disregard your elders? Her eyes filled with derision, Zhu Rongfang's last words stung Jiang Peihuan. Looking at Zhu Rongfang, Jiang Peihuan's already darkened expression became even more severe. She said coldly, Second aunt, I didn't intend to expose your plot against me to second uncle. But now, there's no point in hiding it anymore. Meeting her gaze, Jiang Peihuan's already ugly expression turned even uglier. She looked at Zhu Rongfang and said coldly, Second aunt, I didn't plan to tell second uncle that you framed me. Now it seems that there's no need to hide it for you. Plot? What plot? Jiang Yuan interjected, his face showing confusion and concern. When he heard Jiang Peihuan mention a plot, he spoke out. Turning to him, Jiang Peihuan laid out the whole story of the past rumors and added, "So, it was second aunt's scheming that led the Huainan mansion to dissolve their engagement with me." Looking at Jiang Yuan, Jian Peihuan directly told him about the rumors and then continued, "So, the reason why the Huainan mansion came to break off the engagement was planned by second aunt. Zhu Rongfang, is what Peihuan said true?" Jiang Yuan's voice was thick with disbelief and shock. Had always known Zhu Rongfang to be somewhat difficult, but had never imagined she could be so malicious, especially towards her own niece. Anger burned in Jiang Yuan's eyes. Facing his gaze, Zhu Rongfang showed a flicker of panic. However, considering Jiang Yuan's usual concessions towards her, she hardened her stance and retorted defiantly, "So what if it's true? If it weren't for me, could she have married King Cheng today?" Chapter 71, Want to Divorce You. Shock and disbelief flooded Jiang Yuan's eyes at Zhu Rongfang's words. His gaze shifted toward her, carrying an unfamiliar undertone. The room sank into silence. Suddenly, Jiang Yuan addressed Zhu Rongfang, "Forget it. I realize now that I'm powerless. Given that, you should leave." Though Jiang Yuan's voice was soft, every onlooker could hear it clearly. Zhu Rongfang froze in surprise, and Jiang Peihuan, upon hearing his words, revealed a startled expression. She had an inkling about what Jiang Yuan was implying as expected. "Jiang Yuan, what exactly are you saying?" "My intent is clear, I'm giving you a divorce letter. Once you accept it, you're free to leave Jiang Mansion, and me." What did you just say?" Zhu Rongfang paled instantly at Jiang Yuan's words. She gazed at him in shock, as if he was a stranger to her. After his declaration, Jiang Yuan seemed to breathe easier. Meeting Zhu Rongfang's stunned expression, he repeated, "I said, I want a divorce from you. You, Jiang Yuan, you heartless man. How dare you consider divorcing me?" Enraged, Zhu Rongfang lunged at Jiang Yuan, relentlessly attacking him. Jiang Yuan, a martial artist, easily evaded her strikes, not fighting back. Soon, scratches marred his face, inflicted by Zhu Rongfang's frantic onslaught. What is going on? Old Madame Jiang had been awaiting news in the Chrysanthemum Hall, receiving none for quite some time. She had no choice but to lean on Nanny Zu's arm and move to the front hall, where she walked into the ongoing commotion. The sight of Jiang Yuan's scratched face caused the old madam to glower at Zhu Rongfang. "Rongfang, what are you doing?" "Mother, he is driving me to my death." Hearing the old madam's voice, Zhu Rongfang ceased her assault, but fell to her knees, sobbing in front of old Madame Jiang. Seeing Zhu Rongfang's tear-streaked face, old Madame Jiang frowned but spoke gently, "If you have grievances, voice them properly. What is the use of this crying?" "Mother, Jiang Yuan wants to divorce me." This news caused the old madam to raise her eyebrows in surprise. She knew her second son well. Despite his stern nature, he was fundamentally kind-hearted. Turning to Jiang Yuan, the old madam inquired softly, "Jiang Yuan, is this true?" "Yes." "Mother, you heard him. He indeed wants to divorce me. Has driving me to suicide. I might as well die now. If you indeed wish to die, I can arrange for someone to fetch a rope right now." Old Madame Jiang cut off Zhu Rongfang's dramatic outcry. Under her fierce gaze, Zhu Rongfang dared not say more, only crying quietly. Old Madame Jiang surveyed the room, her gaze finally settling on Jiang Peihuan. "Huan enlighten me. What exactly transpired here?" "Grandmother, to be precise, all this started because of me," confessed Jiang Peihuan. She recounted everything from start to finish. When Jiang Peihuan spoke of Zhu Rongfang's actions, old Madame Jiang looked at her with an icy demeanor. However, while addressing Jiang Yuan, she continued to defend Zhu Rongfang. "You've been warring abroad for years, and it was your wife who managed the household in your absence. Now, on your return, you wish to part ways with her. How does that make any sense? Mother, is it truly her?" Jiang Yuan wanted to reprimand Zhu Rongfang for her excessive actions, but when he thought about her years of toil and dedication, he ended up not voicing any complaints. As the old madam praised her efforts, Zhu Rongfang's sobs grew even more sorrowful. Having addressed Jiang Yuan, old Madam Jiang shifted her attention towards Zhu Rongfang. Enough, no more tears. Every action has its consequence. You must be aware of the amount of work Huan has put in. You need not be grateful to her, but if you had even a shred of conscience, you wouldn't slander her this way. Is it because Huan didn't please you, while Ru Yun did? Upon hearing old Madam Jiang's words, guilt swam in Zhu Rongfang's eyes. Her daughter's life was virtually in shambles. Yet, after Jiang Peihuan's betrothal was cancelled, she could joyously become a princess. How was that fair? Huan shares the surname Jiang, and so does Ru Yun. Even Huan understands the principle of shared honor and disgrace. Have you lived these many years in vain? Mother, I realize my mistakes. Jiang Yuan, you've been at war for countless years. Regardless of your wife's wrongdoings, you owe her. If you truly wish for a divorce, discuss it with her. If she consents, I won't interfere. But if she declines, you have no right to insist. Have you understood my words? Yes, I understand, Mother. Huan, will you escort me back? Old Madam Jiang's gaze rested on each individual before finally settling on Jiang Peihuan. Upon hearing her request, Jiang Peihuan moved forward to support her. Upon reaching the Chrysanthemum Hall, Jiang Peihuan knelt down before the old madam. Seeing this, the old madam promptly spoke. Huan, what on earth are you doing? Stand up at once. Grandmother, I've been too petty. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, a twinge of sadness entered the old madam's eyes. She personally helped Jiang Peihuan up and gestured her to sit by her side. Then, she spoke in a gentle tone. If you call yourself petty, then isn't everyone in this world a saint. Huan, if I could, I would rather you were more like Jin, more naive. You're intelligent and steadfast, which can be exhausting over time. When King Cheng brought up the marriage proposal, I assumed he was speaking casually. I didn't think he was truly fond of you. Huan, out of everyone, I worry about you the most. Grandmother, there's no need to worry. Huan can take care of herself. Jiang Peihuan lowered herself gently, resting her head against old Madam Jiang's knee. The old madam hand smoothed her long hair. After a considerable pause, she spoke softly. King Cheng may seem prestigious, but he is also a nuisance to many. Marrying him won't guarantee your peaceful days ahead. Grandmother, I have faith in him. Recalling his words, Jiang Peihuan, lying on the old madam lap, whispered. While the Jiang mansion was in chaos, a storm was brewing in the palace. At Sinying Palace. Emperor, you are indeed audacious to have Jiang Hong's eldest daughter betrothed to Xiao Nanik. What were you thinking? Grand Empress Dowager, eyes filled with restrained fury, questioned Emperor Qi Ming. Bewildered by her words, he asked, Mother, is there something improper? Indeed, it is. Given Jiang Hong's distinctive status, binding him to Xiao Nanik would make Nanya your arch-nemesis in the future. Mother, why do you harbor such a strong prejudice against Nanya? It's not about me taking issue with him. It's about you pampering and overindulging him too much. Chapter 72. Xiao Nanya must be eliminated. I must admit, I have indeed spoiled Nanya a bit. But he has never taken undue advantage to do anything outrageous. Isn't his behavior outrageous enough already? Are all those tales of his audacity and arrogance untrue? Had Emperor Qi Ming not brought it up, things might have been better. But at his words, the Grand Empress Dowager's eyes flashed with anger. She wanted to reveal that Xiao Nanya was not the late emperor's true son, but she couldn't. Questioning Xiao Nanya's lineage equated to questioning the previous emperor, an affront to the imperial family. This had to be dealt with discreetly, not publicly. Emperor Qi Ming couldn't fathom why the Grand Empress Dowager disapproved of Xiao Nanya. He presumed it was out of fear. After a moment of contemplation, he said quietly, Mother, I've watched Nanya grow up. I trust his character. For my sake, please don't give him a hard time. I have already decreed the marriage, so the matter will not change. After making this declaration, Emperor Qiming left the Grand Empress Dowager's Sinning Palace promptly. As he walked away, the Grand Empress Dowager turned visibly pale. The old nanny nearby quickly moved closer. Grand Empress, please look after your health. You saw how much the Emperor guards that miscreant. I can't wait any longer. I must hasten to eliminate him before he becomes a catastrophe. Send him a message. Xiao Nanye must be eliminated within the next 3 months. Grand Empress, he is the only one left in King Cheng's mansion loyal to us. Are you sure you want to employ him? As long as I can kill Xiao Nanye, I don't care about anything else. Upon hearing the Grand Empress Dowager's words, the old nanny quietly left the Sinning Palace. General Mansion. In the Plum Garden. Elder sister, why are you up so early? It was barely dawn, but Jiang Xijin noticed that Jiang Peihuan's clothes were completely soaked in sweat. Noticing Jiang Xijin approaching, Jiang Peihuan stowed away the long whip she had been holding. She accepted a handkerchief from Jiang Xijin, dabbed the sweat off her forehead, then asked softly, "Why are you here so early?" "Mother sent me to find you. She mentioned that we are going out today." On hearing this, Jiang Peihuan nodded. She hadn't slept a wink the previous night, her mind awash with turmoil. In her restlessness, she had decided to practice martial arts, which had resulted in her current sweaty state. Interestingly, the exercise seemed to ease some of her tension. "Miss, I have prepared some hot water for you. You should quickly freshen up and change into clean clothes," Yu urged as soon as Jiang Peihuan stepped inside the house. "All right." After acknowledging Yu, Jiang Peihuan turned to Jiang Xijin and inquired, "Do you know where Mother plans to take us?" "I'm not sure. Mother didn't say anything. She just instructed us to be ready to leave." "Fine, wait for me for a bit. We'll join Mother for breakfast." "Got it. Third miss, please have some pastries while you wait." After Jiang Peihuan disappeared into the bathroom, Yu brought a tray of pastries and tea for Jiang Xijin. "Thank you, Sister Yu." After expressing her gratitude to Yu, Jiang Xijin began to munch on the pastries happily. By the time Jian Peihuan came out of the bathroom, Jiang Xijin had already devoured every last pastry from the tray. Giving her a look, Jiang Peihuan couldn't resist teasing, "You've gobbled up so many pastries. Will you still have room for breakfast?" "HCHC. Sister Yu's pastries are just too delicious to resist." With a playful smile in response to Jiang Peihuan's teasing, Jiang Xijin stepped forward and wrapped her arm around her sister's. A hint of amused resignation flashed in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. She reached out and lightly tapped Jiang Xijin's forehead. "Oh, you." When they arrived at Yanglin, Shui Yang had already neatly packed up. Apart from Shui Yang, Liu Xiu was also present. "Third aunt, what brings you to Mother's place today?" At Jiang Xijin's question, Liu Xiu simply smiled without answering, turning her gaze to Jiang Peihuan. Confusion filled Jiang Peihuan's eyes. Upon seeing this, Shui Yang intervened, "Let's have breakfast first. We can talk more afterwards." Shortly after breakfast, Shui Yang and Liu Xiu led Jiang Peihuan and Jiang Xijin outside. While the carriage was moving, Shui Yang turned to Jiang Peihuan and said, "Since you and King Cheng have already set a wedding date, your dowry should be prepared sooner rather than later. I have been traveling with your father these past years and have neglected to prepare your dowry. Now, we will have to purchase ready-made items. Dowries for noble daughters are typically prepared from a young age." However, Shui Yang had been accompanying Jiang Hong in his travels and battles, causing her to overlook this tradition. Upon remembering this, guilt shimmered in Shui Yang's eyes. Seeing the hint of worry in Shui Yang's eyes, Jiang Peihuan reached out to reassure her. "Mother, there's no need to be anxious. We still have 3 months. We'll manage everything in time. Indeed, sister-in-law. If we can't accumulate enough, I can always pick some things from my dowry," she added casually. "What nonsense. You still have Songbai. How could you possibly take from your own dowry? My dear sister-in-law, you're well aware of my situation. I don't have much, but am not short on gold and silver. Although Huan isn't my biological child, she shares a strong bond with Songbai, and I've watched her grow up. Third aunt, does that mean you'll also prepare a dowry for me?" Jiang Xijin chimed in with a playful grin after hearing the exchange between Liu Xiu and Shui Yang. Her comment lightened the mood, eliciting laughter from everyone in the carriage. Shui Yang, albeit slightly annoyed, reassured her, "Your father and I wouldn't dare shortchange your dowry." "Ha! Of course not. After all, who could ever complain about having too much money?" "You're absolutely right, dear. Don't worry, when it's your turn to get married, third aunt will certainly prepare a hefty dowry for you." Despite the fact that the marriage had been bestowed, Jiang Peihuan hadn't truly felt its reality until now. Hearing Shui Yang and the others discuss these arrangements touched her in a way she hadn't anticipated. Their carriage then came to a halt. "We've arrived at the treasure pavilion, madam," announced a servant from outside. "All right, let's head into the treasure pavilion first." At Shui Yang's command, Jiang Xijin was the first to hop off the carriage, followed by Jiang Peihuan. Once they'd assisted Shui Yang and Liu Xiu down from the carriage, the group of four headed into the treasure pavilion together. Since it was still early, the pavilion wasn't crowded. Nevertheless, Jiang Peihuan instantly noticed Lin Mengyaro, who stood by a cabinet. Upon hearing their entrance, Lin Mengyaro turned to look at the doorway. Seeing Jiang Peihuan, her eyes briefly sparkled before she greeted them with a warm smile. "Greetings, madam. And who might this be?" Shui Yang watched Lin Mengyaro, curiosity reflected in her eyes. Jiang Xijin stepped up to clarify, "Mother, this is Miss Lin, the daughter of General Lin Ruhai." Upon hearing the name Lin Ruhai, a flash crossed Shui Yang's eyes. However, she smiled at Lin Mengyaro and said, "Miss Lin, there's no need to be overly formal. Sister-in-law, this white jade necklace is quite remarkable." Chapter 73. It was something Jiang Peihuan did not want. Liu Xiu, hailing from a merchant background, had a habitual knack for observing merchandise in each shop she entered. It was this very habit that led her to notice the white jade necklace that Mengyaro Lin had just set aside. The necklace was predominantly gold, but the quality of the white jade adorning it was commendable. "You've grown accustomed to exquisite things since childhood," she mused. "If you say it's a good piece, then it surely must be." Having spoken, Shui Yang turned to the approaching shopkeeper. "How much for this necklace?" "The madam has a discerning eye," complimented the shopkeeper. "This white jade necklace is a new addition to our shop, retailing at 5,000 taels. 5,000 taels? Shui Yang, a military general by origin, was no stranger to the value of jewelry, yet market prices remained somewhat foreign to her. The quoted price startled her. She then shifted her attention to Liu Xiu. Reading Shui Yang's surprise, Liu Xiu responded with a smile, "Shopkeeper, this white jade necklace, though of fine quality, isn't quite worth 5,000 taels. Let's settle at 4,500 taels. We have quite a few items on our shopping list today. A bit of a discount would be appreciated." "In that case, let's follow the price madam said," the shopkeeper conceded. "Madam Jiang, my young lady was the first one to lay eyes on this necklace," a voice suddenly interjected. The speaker was Bao Huan, Lin Mengyao's maid. Shui Yang and Liu Xiu both looked at Lin Mengyaro on hearing this. "Bao Huan, mind your manners," Lin Mengyaro chided her maid before turning to Shui Yang and offering, "I sincerely apologize." Although Lin Mengyao's words suggested an apology, her eyes revealed not a trace of genuine remorse. She had been drawn to this necklace from the moment she walked in, but a price tag of 5,000 taels seemed a tad steep for her. However, she was willing to part with 4,500 taels. At her words, Shui Yang's eyebrows knitted together in a frown. Just as she was about to voice her thoughts, her eldest daughter tugged at her sleeve. Jiang Peihuan, having glanced at Lin Mengyaro, spoke in a nonchalant tone, "Since Miss Lin set her heart on it first, it should rightfully be hers." Once done, Jiang Peihuan addressed Shui Yang and Liu Xiu, "Mother, third aunt, let's browse for other items. This necklace doesn't quite appeal to me. All right, if you don't fancy it, we shall look for something else. Sister-in-law, how about we visit Linglong Pavilion next door?" Liu Xiu suggested in a soft voice. Liu Xiu said softly. With a nod, Shui Yang prepared to exit. However, she was halted by the shopkeeper behind her. "Madam, please hold on a moment." The shopkeeper glanced at the white jade necklace, then whispered, "Madam, we have another necklace in our shop. Its quality surpasses this white jade one. Would you care to see it? Superior quality? Bring it to me. Please wait a moment, madam." Upon seeing the contents of the box, a flicker of surprise crossed Jiang Peihuan's eyes. Looking at the things in the box, Jiang Peihuan's eyes flashed with surprise. The necklace was also crafted from gold, but it was embellished with blood-red jade. A large ruby hung from the pendant at the bottom. Upon seeing the necklace, Jiang Peihuan instinctively looked at her own ruby ring. The colors seemed to match quite well. This necklace is indeed remarkable. Having seen many fine items before, Liu Xiu couldn't hide a hint of astonishment when she saw this necklace. Shui Yang also found the necklace beautiful, but she turned to Jiang Peihuan, asking softly, "Huan, do you fancy this necklace?" "Yes, I rather like it." "If you like it, then mother will buy it for you." Seeing Jiang Peihuan nod, Shui Yang beamed at the shopkeeper. "Shopkeeper, could you wrap this necklace for me?" Hearing Shui Yang's words, a subtle smile surfaced on Jiang Peihuan's lips. "Mother, you haven't asked the shopkeeper the price of this necklace." "No matter the cost, if you like it, mother will buy it for you." "Shopkeeper, wrap it up." "Yes, madam." A broad smile spread across the shopkeeper's face. After packing the box, he turned to Shui Yang. "Madam, this necklace is a bit pricier than the white jade one. It will cost 6,000 taels. "Very well." Nodding, Shui Yang took out several banknotes and handed them to the shopkeeper. After receiving the items from the shopkeeper, Shui Yang turned to Jiang Peihuan. "Huan, is there anything else you're interested in?" "No more." Upon hearing Shui Yang's words, Jiang Peihuan shook her head. Seeing her response, Shui Yang smiled, "That's fine. Let's visit the neighboring Linglong Pavilion." "All right." Shui Yang and the rest nodded at Lin Mengyaro and left. Mengyaro Lin clenched her fists tightly as she watched them leave. At this moment, the shopkeeper, smiling, approached her. "Miss Lin, would you like me to wrap up this white jade necklace for you?" Lin Mengyaro wanted to decline. She had taken a fancy to this white jade necklace at first sight, but it was something Jiang Peihuan did not want. However, upon meeting the shopkeeper's gaze, she swallowed her laughter and nodded. "That would be kind of you. Miss Lin, I will only charge you 4,500 taels for this necklace, as we had initially agreed with Madame Jiang." "Thank you, shopkeeper." With a smile, Mengyaro Lin accepted the box from the shopkeeper. As soon as she stepped out of the 100 Treasures Pavilion, her smile faltered, unable to maintain its warmth any longer. Once she settled in the carriage, she swiftly swung her hand, landing a solid slap across Bao Huan's face. An immediate imprint of 5 fingers marked Bao Huan's face. She didn't dare to utter a cry. Instead, she hastily knelt, pleading, "Miss, this is all Bao Huan's fault. Please, find your calm." As she spoke, Bao Huan extended her hand, slapping herself repeatedly. Meng Yao's eyes, icy and detached, watched Bao Huan. Blood began to leak from the corner of Bao Huan's mouth. Regardless, Meng Yao displayed no intention of ordering her to stop. Suddenly, a voice from outside interrupted them. "Eldest miss, the Prince Qing has arrived at the mansion. The master requests your immediate return. Quickly, we must return to the mansion." At these words, a trace of delight surfaced in Meng Yao's eyes. She turned to Bao Huan, still kneeling to one side, her voice cold. "Enough." Tossing a bottle of medicine to Bao Huan, she spoke in a low voice. "If anyone asks, you know what to say, right?" "Yes, I clumsily fell, miss. This is top-notch injury medicine. Apply it yourself later." "Thank you, miss." Bao Huan quickly collected the medicine bottle, then bowed her head and moved to kneel in a corner of the carriage. Meanwhile, at Lin Mansion. "Prince, I prepared this cake personally for you." Xiao Juanhao, seated in the pavilion, examined the woman before him. His eyes were filled with mockery, yet Lin Mengxian remained oblivious, blind to the derision in the man's gaze. All she saw was his strikingly handsome face. She picked up a piece of cake, presenting it to Xiao Juanhao, nearly bringing it to his mouth. "Thank you, third miss." Xiao Juanhao graciously accepted the pastry from Lin Mengxian. However, just as he was about to take a bite, someone whisked the pastry away from him. "Your Highness, this pastry may be difficult to digest. It would be better if you refrained from eating it." Chapter 74:1 Won't hesitate to take you down. First, Lin Mengyaro softly removed the pastry from Xiao Junhao's hand. Upon seeing her, a hint of warmth glowed in Xiao Junhao's eyes. "You're back. Apologies for keeping you waiting, Your Highness." Observing the man's familiar demeanor, a hint of delight emerged on Lin Mengyao's face. "No worries at all," he replied calmly. "Why don't you come and sit in my courtyard, Your Highness?" "Sure." Xiao Junhao gave a nod of agreement, then followed her to leave, leaving Lin Mengxian alone in the pavilion. As she watched them depart, Mengxian clenched her fists tightly. "Why did you visit the manor today, Your Highness?" Lin Mengyaro didn't ask about the prior incident. After serving Xiao Junhao a cup of tea, she turned the conversation to serious matters. Upon hearing this, Xiao Junhao's face turned serious. "My father has already betrothed Jiang Peihuan to King Cheng." "Betrothed to King Cheng?" Lin Mengyao's eyes were wide with surprise and mixed emotions at Xiao Junhao's revelation. She felt a rush of joy upon learning that Jiang Peihuan was betrothed, which meant she no longer had to worry about marrying Xiao Junhao. However, the reality that Jiang Peihuan was betrothed to King Cheng, a man of unparalleled power, stirred a sense of unease in her. Is Jiang Peihuan truly that fortunate? She pondered. Jiang Hong willingly surrendered his commander seal. Soon after, my father arranged Jiang Psihuan's betrothal to King Cheng. As it stands, I can no longer rely on the general's mansion, Xiao Junhao revealed. Yao the only one who can help me now is you. What does Your Highness need me to do? My father plans to construct a palace in the outskirts. If I could oversee this project, I would have frequent opportunities to be in his presence. You should visit the eldest princess more often in the coming days. I hope my father entrusts me with this responsibility. All right, Yao understands. I'll pay a visit to the eldest princess later. Thank you for your effort. Hearing Lin Mengyao's words, Xiao Junhao extended his hand to caress her long hair. Seeing the tenderness in his eyes, she firmly grasped his hand. Yao is willing to do anything for Your Highness, so it doesn't feel like a burden at all. Since her rebirth, Jiang Peihuan continued to exercise daily. She believed her stamina was more than adequate, but in that moment, she truly felt the weariness seeping into her. Noticing Shui Yang and Liu Xiu pressing on with their shopping, Jiang Peihuan could not help but voice out, "Mother, we can't possibly finish shopping in a day. Maybe we should come back in a couple of days. Let's call it a day and head home." "Yes, Mother. My legs are about to break." Jiang Xijin chimed in, rubbing her waist. She regretted her decision to tag along, unaware of the exhaustion shopping could bring. "You two simply need to exercise more. Look at your third aunt, she's no martial artist, yet she isn't complaining," Shui Yang chided them. Hearing this, Liu Xiu reddened slightly. "Sister-in-law, although I'm no expert in martial arts, I used to play outside with my brothers since childhood. In terms of stamina, I'm not far behind. Why don't we rest and grab a bite at the Pine and Crane Pavilion?" suggested Jiang Peihuan, spotting the restaurant nearby. Shui Yang, herself feeling a bit worn out, nodded in agreement upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's suggestion. The four of them walked into the Pine and Crane Pavilion. Spotting them, a waiter immediately attended to them. "Madam, would you prefer to be seated in the main hall or a private room?" "Well, take a private room." "Very well, please follow me upstairs." Leading the way, the waiter escorted them to a private room on the second floor. Once the tea was served, he addressed Shui Yang with a polite smile. "Madam, enjoy your tea. Your food will be up shortly." "Thank you," Shui Yang responded. Jiang Peihuan poured tea for each of them, first setting a cup before Shui Yang, then passing one to Liu Xiu. "Mother, third aunt, have some tea to refresh yourselves." "Huan you've also been on your feet all day. Relax a bit," Liu Xiu said softly, accepting the tea from Jiang Peihuan's hand. As Jiang Peihuan was about to respond, a ruckus erupted outside, filled with the clatter of fighting and heated arguments. They would have dismissed it, but Jiang Songbai's name caught their attention. They didn't care at first, but they heard Jiang Songbai's name. Outside the door, Yang Quan glared furiously at a woman shielded by Jiang Songbai. Jiang Songbai, you better stay out of this, or else I won't mind giving you a beating too. Yang Quan, you're crossing a line. She's my cousin, and you dare to humiliate her in front of me. Do you see me as a pushover? Jiang Songbai fired back. Oh, cousin. The Liu family is nothing more than a bunch of merchants, and she is just a merchant's daughter. What makes her so high and mighty? At most, it'll just make her my concubine. You, upon hearing this, Jiang Songbai's eyes blazed with fury. But the woman behind him held his sleeve. Cousin, let it be. I'm fine. Cousin Shin, don't be scared. I'm here today, and I won't let anyone bully you, assured Jiang Songbai, before launching a kick at Yang Quan. Yang Quan, who was already 20 and had over a decade of martial arts training, clearly held an upper hand against Jiang Songbei, whose martial arts experience was relatively brief. When Jiang Peihuan pushed open the door, she found Yang Quan pinning Jiang Songbei to the ground, relentlessly raining punches onto his face. Despite the assault, Jiang Songbei refused to cry out in pain. He gritted his teeth, waiting for the right moment. When Yang Quan was momentarily distracted, Jiang Songbei seized the opportunity, kicked Yang Quan off him, and quickly gained the upper hand. However, Yang Quan had a trick up his sleeve. He swiftly pulled out his dagger. Witnessing this dangerous turn, Liu Xin couldn't contain a shriek. Songbei, watch out. Fortunately, the dagger didn't find its way to Jiang Songbei. Jiang Peihuan had reacted promptly, pulling out the long whip fastened to her waist, and skillfully ensnaring Yang Quan's wrist. With a firm tug, Yang Quan found himself crashing to the ground. Elder sister? Jiang Songbei, surprised and relieved, locked eyes with his savior. Did you get hurt? Jiang Peihuan asked in a soft voice, examining Jiang Songbei for injuries. Jiang Songbei shook his head. I'm all right. Enraged, Yang Quan glared at Jiang Songbei, his words seething with contempt. Are you even a man, relying on a woman to fight your battles? Jiang Peihuan fired back sharply. Master Yang, you are 8 years older than my brother. Is it a mark of a gentleman to bully those younger than you? It's Jiang Songbai's fault for poking his nose where it doesn't belong. Even so, do you have the right to humiliate my cousin publicly? Yang Quan, you're nothing but a coward. Jiang Songbei, repeat that, and I swear ill. Yang Quan's threat got cut off mid-sentence when a sudden sharp pain shot through his mouth. He clutched his mouth, and when he pulled his hand back, it held 2 of his teeth. Yang Quan glowered at Jiang Peihuan, his eyes dark with malice. If you think you can lay a hand on my brother, you're mistaken. I won't hesitate to take you down first. Chapter 75. Mentioning the past whip in hand, Jiang Pchiwan pointed at Yang Quan. Her eyes brimmed with fierce hostility, making Yang Quan shudder. Yet, the moment he realized his fear of a woman, a mix of shame and irritation filled his eyes. The power in Pei Huan's whip had made an impression on him. No longer daring to provoke Jiang Pchiwan, he cast a scornful glance at Jiang Songbei. Hiding behind a woman, what kind of man does that? I will remember what happened today. I, Yang Quan, will definitely get back at you. With those words, he made a swift exit, bumping into a young waiter on his way down the stairs. The waiter, carrying a tray of food, lost his balance, and the dishes spilled over Yang Quan. Seeing his stained clothes, Yang Quan was angered. He kicked the waiter, sending him rolling down the stairs. The waiter's head was bleeding on the spot, but he didn't dare to say anything. Looking up into Yang Quan's icy stare, he quickly apologized. I'm sorry, Master Yang, I didn't mean to. You blind mutt. Before the waiter could finish, Yang Quan kicked him again. Watching from upstairs, Jiang Songbei instinctively moved to intervene, only to be stopped by Jiang Pchiwan. Pchiwan, noticing his puzzled look, said calmly, you can help him once, but not always. If you step in, Yang Quan will only target him more. Downstairs, Yang Quan's anger subsided slightly seeing the blooded waiter. He shot a cold glance at Jiang Pchiwan and the others upstairs before striding away from the Pines and Cranes pavilion. Despite the waiter being covered in blood, his injuries were superficial. Jiang Qiwan sighed in relief. She could have intervened, but that could have made things worse for the waiter. Once the waiter was back on his feet, Pei Huan turned to Liu Xin and asked softly, "Miss Liu, are you all right?" After the waiter stood up, Jen Pei Huan turned to Liu Xin and asked softly, "Miss Liu, are you all right?" Liu Xin, still shaken, managed a smile when she heard Jiang Pei Huan's voice. She bowed and said, "Thank you for today, eldest miss." "There's no need for formalities, Miss Liu," Jiang Pei Huan replied, "You're Songbai's cousin and my aunt's niece. You don't need to address me like a stranger. This year I turned 17, making me a year younger than you. If you don't mind, may I call you Sister Jiang from now on?" Of course. In her past life, Jiang Pei Huan hadn't had much interaction with Liu Xin, yet the few times their gazes met, she was able to perceive the clear, sincere eyes and candid demeanor of Liu Xin, signaling her virtuous character. Upon seeing Jiang Pei Huan's nod of acknowledgement, a smile flickered in Liu Xin's eyes. She continued, "If that's the case, Sister Jiang, there's no need for formalities. Call me Xin like Aunt does." "Sure. My mother and third aunt are in the private room." "Xin you and Songbai should join us," Jiang Pei Huan proposed, to which she got a nod from Liu Xin. Subsequently, Jiang Pei Huan escorted both of them into the private room. The clamor from outside was quite audible within the private room. However, if Shui Yang and Liu Xiu stepped out, the situation would be different, hence Jiang Pei Huan decided to go out on her own. "Xin how are you doing? Are you hurt anywhere?" asked Liu Xiu, worry clouding her eyes. Even though she was aware that with Jiang Pei Huan present, Liu Xin wouldn't be easily disadvantaged, she's still concerned about her safety. As Liu Xin entered the room, Liu Xiu quickly took her hand. The Liu family was prospering, but there were hardly any girls. In Liu Xiu's generation, she was the only one, hence she had 4 older brothers looking out for her. By the time Liu Xin's generation arrived, the number of girls in the Liu family had increased, but Liu Xin was the only legitimate child. Liu Xiu had only one son, Jiang Songbai, and she always treated Liu Xin, her niece, like her own daughter. Seeing Liu Xiu's eyes filled with worry, Liu Xin quickly reassured her, "Aunt, you need not worry, I'm perfectly fine." Having comforted Liu Xiu, Liu Xin turned her attention to Shui Yang and respectfully greeted her, "Madam, Xin pays her respects." "Rise, dear," replied Shui Yang. Having been through many battles, she was seasoned at reading people. Seeing the transparency in Liu Xin's eyes, she smiled and nodded, then softly added, "We're all family here, there's no need for formal titles. Like Changbai, you can call me Auntie." "Yes, Auntie. Today is our first meeting. I'm not fond of wearing jewelry, but this bracelet was something I used to wear in my younger days. It isn't particularly valuable, but I'd like you to have it as a welcoming gift." While speaking, Shui Yang removed a bracelet from her wrist. The bracelet was of an average quality, but had an appealing style, adorned with delicate carvings. Liu Xin instinctively glanced at her aunt, who reassured her, "This is from your sister-in-law, you should accept it." Seeing her niece's expression, Liu Xiu added with a chuckle. Acknowledging this, Liu Xin extended her hands and graciously accepted the bracelet from Shui Yang. "Thank you, Auntie. Sister Xin how did you end up coming to the Pine and Crane Pavilion with second brother today? And even running into that Yang Quan?" Jiang Xijin asked once everyone had settled down. Being about the same age as Jiang Songbai, Jiang Xijin often hung out with him, hence, she had seen Liu Xin a few times. Liu Xin briefly explained what had happened in response to Xijin's curiosity. From her explanation, Jiang Pei Huan was able to fully grasp the situation. Liu Xin had stepped out today mainly to inspect the performance of her family's store. Given her family's worry about her being alone, Liu Xin's father had suggested that Jiang Songbai accompany her, as Liu Xin's brothers were already familiar faces at the store. Being Liu Xiu's only son, Jiang Songbai was cherished by his uncles from the Liu family, resulting in a warm relationship between him and the Liu family. Upon receiving the letter from his uncle, Jiang Songbai had promptly made his way to the Liu family. All had gone as planned until Liu Xin, not wanting Jiang Songbai to return home hungry, had brought him to the Pine and Crane Pavilion. They had intended to part ways after their meal, only to unexpectedly cross paths with Yang Quan. What happened after that was exactly what you saw, Sister Jiang. This Yang Quan is nothing more than a domineering bully, Jiang Xijin fumed after hearing Liu Xin's story. His sister was the cause of eldest sister falling into the water last time, and today he dared to harass Sister Xin. The next time I see him, I swear I'll teach him a proper lesson. Jiang Xijin heard Liu Xin's words, her eyes were filled with anger. At this, Shui Yang looked at Jiang Peihuan thoughtfully. Huan was your previous fall into the water connected to Yang's second miss? Feeling everyone's gaze upon her, Jiang Peihuan responded calmly, I had fainted by then, so I'm not entirely sure. She was well aware of the truth. Her fall was indeed related to Yang Xin, but Yang Xin had been acting under someone else's instructions. The only one with eldest sister at that time was Yang family's second miss. If not her, who else could it have been? Chapter 76. Sending Liu Xin home. Jiang Xijin was firm in her belief. The first time she laid eyes on Yang Xin, she got the feeling that she was not a trustworthy person. However, her older sister had always considered Yang Xin a close friend. Seeing the wrath in Jiang Xijin's eyes, Jiang Peihuan chuckled lightly. If we don't have any evidence, voicing such suspicions will only stir up gossip. So, let's not bring it up again. Since you're not fond of second Miss Yang, I'll distance myself from her in the future. Are you serious, eldest sister? Of course. Hearing this, Jiang Xijin was elated. There was a knock on the private room's door. The previously injured waiter walked in, his wound now tended to. With careful precision, he set the food on the table and apologized. Ladies, I deeply regret spilling the food earlier. Here is a freshly prepared meal. I'm sorry for making you wait. It's fine, responded Shui Yang. Being aware of the incident that had just transpired outside, she was not bothered by the waiter's admission. Seeing the group's lack of blame, the waiter breathed a sigh of relief. At this moment, Jiang Peihuan extended a piece of gold to the waiter. Keep the change. Use the remainder as a tip for yourself. Once the restaurant closes, find a doctor to examine your injuries. Thank you, miss. Initially, the waiter was somewhat disheartened. He felt unfortunate for being kicked around undeservedly and having to cover the cost of the spilt meal. However, seeing the gold in Jiang Peihuan's hand instantly dissolved his gloom. All right, let's start eating. After we finish, Songbai, you'll escort Xin home. Third aunt, I'm worried that the Yang family might stir up trouble again. Perhaps, Songbai and I should accompany Xin home later, suggested Jiang Peihuan. Upon hearing this, Liu Xiu showed a hint of worry. This incident was initiated by the rudeness of young Master Yang. Are they still planning to harass Xin? Seeing the concern in Liu Xiu's eyes, Jiang Peihuan softly replied, it's just a guess on my part. However, being cautious never hurts. I want to come too, eldest sister, Jiang Xijin quickly interjected. Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan didn't respond but glanced at Shui Yang. Suddenly, Jiang Xijin tugged at Shui Yang's sleeve. Mother, please let me accompany eldest sister. You may go, but behave yourself. Stick with your sister. Don't worry, mother. I'll follow eldest sister's lead. Half an hour later, Jiang Peihuan and Jiang Xijin climbed into Liu Xin's carriage. Jiang Songbai rode alongside them on horseback. The journey was very peaceful and nothing happened. Jiang Peihuan simply thought she might be overthinking things. As their carriage pulled up at the entrance of the Liu mansion, Liu Xin turned towards Jiang Peihuan and Jiang Xijin with a smile. Sister Jiang, Xijin, please join me in my home. Jiang Xijin remained silent, looking towards her sister for guidance. Meeting Liu Xin's eyes, Jiang Peihuan laughed softly. It's quite late today, so I won't disturb you. Maybe on another day. Young miss. Jiang Peihuan's words were abruptly cut off when she noticed a middle-aged man hurrying towards them, panic written all over his face. Seeing this man, Liu Xin's expression changed slightly. Uncle Liu, what's the matter? Miss, the eldest young master has been injured by someone from the Yang family. The old master is still outside the city. The eldest young master instructed me to wait at the gate, and upon seeing you, to suggest you to spend the night at your aunt's place. Big brother is hurt. Is he severely injured? Worry filled Liu Xin's eyes. She was about to head inside when she realized that Jiang Peihuan and the others were still present. She quickly turned back. Sister Jiang, I can't entertain you today. I'll make it up to you another time. With that said, Liu Xin hurriedly walked in. The steward, Uncle Liu, looked equally worried. Upon witnessing this, Jiang Peihuan knew she could stand by and watch. She quickly halted Liu Xin. I'll go in with you. Sister Jiang, you've already done so much for me today. If you go further, don't fret. Regardless of whether it involves you or not, I cannot ignore such an incident. Let's go inside. At least we should wait until Uncle Liu returns. All right, then I'm sorry to trouble you, Sister Jiang. Jiang Songbai instinctively tried to follow them, but Jiang Peihuan held his hand. Elder sister? Facing his puzzled gaze, Jiang Peihuan whispered, you don't need to join us. Go back to the house, tell third uncle about this situation and ask him to come here. And also, send someone to inform Uncle Liu outside the city. Understood, elder sister. Cousin Xin don't worry. I'll immediately go back and bring father here. Jiang Songbai assured the worried Liu Xin as he prepared to mount his horse. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's plan, Liu Xin let out a sigh of relief. Although the Liu family was wealthy, they were merchants. Going against the Yang family would certainly put them at a disadvantage. However, with her uncle's arrival, they wouldn't be without support. Let's go in. As she started speaking, Jiang Peihuan was the first to step inside. Just upon reaching the entrance to the main hall, she heard a barrage of insults from inside. The harsh words were from none other than Yang Quan and another all too familiar voice. Liu Hao, you're being too disrespectful. Believe it or not, I can cripple you right now. Liu Hao, Liu Xin's older brother, was the eldest grandson of the Liu family. Yang Quan and his men had Liu Hao pinned to the ground. Yang Quan's foot was forcefully pressing on the back of Liu Hao's hand, a cruel grin on his face. Pain filled Liu Hao's eyes, blood smeared the corner of his mouth, but he bore it silently. Yang Xin, seated comfortably on a chair nearby, watched the scene unfold with a disdainful sneer. Your Liu family is nothing more than a bunch of traders. It's her blessing that my brother even fancies her, Liu Xin. The mention of Liu Xin sparked clear disgust in Yang Xin's eyes. She hated Liu Xin, not for any other reason but the fact that a mere merchant's daughter dared to share the same name as her. The thought alone was repugnant to Yang Xin. You dream of humiliating my sister? Even if you were to kill me, I would never let you have her. Heh. You really don't know your place. At those words, Yang Quan chuckled coldly, his eyes clouding with malice. Well then, don't blame me for not being polite. I've heard you're quite the business whiz. I wonder, can you still work your magic if I ruin your hands? As soon as he finished his threat, Yang Quan applied even more pressure on Liu Hao's hand. The increased pain was too much for Liu Hao, causing him to cry out in agony. But the torment was cut short when Yang Quan, still standing on Liu Hao's hand, was abruptly knocked to the ground. Jiang Peihuan, with a swift motion, loosened the whip entwined around Yang Quan's ankle. Rushing to Liu Hao's aid, Liu Xin helped him up from the floor. Big brother, how are you? Is it very painful? Xin didn't I ask you to go to our aunt's place? Why did you come here? Seeing his sister, Liu Hao's expression softened significantly, only to grow stern once again. Chapter 77, Jiang Ren arrives. Big brother, it was Sister Jiang and Si Jin who brought me here. Upon hearing this, Liu Hao cast his gaze towards Jiang Peihuan and Jiang Si Jin. Jiang Peihuan, you again? Yang Quan managed to lift himself off the ground, his gaze on Jiang Peihuan simmering with rage. Compared to Yang Quan, Jiang Peihuan bore an air of cool indifference. She methodically coiled up her long whip, her eyes as frosty as ice. Seems like the last lash didn't serve as a sufficient reminder, she declared. The sight of his whip marks only served to remind Yang Quan of his pain. He couldn't help but flinch at Jiang Peihuan's words, feeling the sting in his mouth all over again. Yang Xin, standing aside, was puzzled by Jiang Peihuan's frosty demeanor. Nevertheless, she mustered the courage to step forward. Jiang Peihuan, what is the meaning of this? Why did you strike my brother? As she spoke, Yang Xin reached out to hold Jiang Peihuan's hand as before. But before her hand could make contact, Jiang Peihuan swiftly moved away. Caught by surprise, Yang Xin's hand hung awkwardly mid-air. This unexpected move left Yang Xin visibly stunned. Confusion swirled in her eyes, but Jiang Xijin was visibly delighted by the spectacle. Jiang Xijin approached Jiang Peihuan and said mockingly to Yang Xin, "My elder sister has seen through your pretense. She will not associate with you in the future. So, stop trying to ingratiate yourself with her. Peihuan, I hardly know you. Henceforth, you should address me as Miss Jiang." Before Yang Xin could reply, Jiang Qiwan cut her off with a disinterested tone. Jiang Xijin, on hearing this, almost doubled over in laughter. She strutted around triumphantly like a rooster returning from battle. Gleefully, she chimed in, "Miss Yang, did you hear my sister? From now on, refer to her as eldest Miss Jiang." Chempage. What's so extraordinary? Your Jiang family has already surrendered the commander seal. You think I value that? With a disdainful snort, Yang Xin retreated a couple of steps. Her eyes dark and brooding, she glared at Jiang Qiwan and retorted coldly, "Jiang Peihuan, are you certain you want to protect the Liu family? They carry the surname Liu, sharing no connection whatsoever with your Jiang family." Jiang Peihuan merely looked at Yang Xin with indifference, as though she hadn't heard her words at all. Observing Jiang Peihuan's reaction, Yang Xin felt an odd sensation stirring within her. However, her annoyance only grew. "Fine, if that's how it is, then I won't hold back." Surveying her allies, Yang Xin ordered, "Go, seize Yang Xin. Anyone who dares to interfere, strike them down." Hearing this, the faces of the Liu siblings shifted. Jiang Peihuan furrowed her brow. Just as she prepared to act, a voice echoed, "I'd like to see who dares." "Uncle." Seeing the striding figure of Jiang Ren, Liu Hao and Liu Xin brightened and swiftly called out to him, "Third uncle." Jiang Peihuan and Jiang Xijin also softly called out. Jiang Ren nodded to Jiang Qiwan and Jiang Xijin, then turned to the Liu siblings, "Are you guys alright? Big brother's been hurt, but I'm okay." At Liu Xin's words, Liu Hao quickly stepped forward, respectfully addressing Jiang Ren, "Uncle, I've caused you trouble today. Boy, why didn't you inform me about this mess? Were it not for Songbai calling me, you wouldn't have thought to mention it, would you? It's my fault." Seeing the look in Liu Hao's eyes, a hint of helplessness crossed Jiang Ren's face. He was close with Liu Xiu, and though the Liu family was a merchant class, he had never belittled them. However, the Liu family, from top to bottom, avoided troubling Liu Xiu, hence they never reached out to him when issues arose. This left Jiang Ren both pleased and concerned. "Third uncle, please handle this matter." At this point, Jiang Peihuan addressed Jiang Ren. Upon hearing his niece's words, Jiang Ren nodded in agreement. Next, Jiang Peihuan, holding Jiang Xijin's hand, moved aside. Upon Jiang Ren's appearance, Yang Xin and Yang Quan displayed a flash of panic, yet Yang Xin disdainfully retorted, "Lord Jiang, my father's rank is above yours, silent." With a cold glare, Jiang Ren cut off Yang Xin's words, turning to Liu Hao he said, "Hao, come here." Hearing Jiang Ren's words, Liu Hao stepped forward. Jiang Ren carefully examined Liu Hao, noting his numerous injuries, particularly his hands which were a swollen red. Jiang Ren had heard from his wife that Liu Hao was the most talented businessman in the Liu family. "Tell me, who injured you? Uncle? Speak." Seeing the stern look on Jiang Ren's face, Liu Hao pointed to Yang Quan and a few of his attendants. Looking at the people Liu Hao indicated, Jiang Ren coldly pronounced, "Will you surrender willingly, or shall I take action?" The attendants who found themselves under Jiang Ren's chilling stare were filled with fear, instinctively turning their eyes towards Yang Quan for guidance. "Lord Jiang, what are you planning?" Yang Quan's words were abruptly cut off by a piercing pain in his wrist, coming to the realization that Jiang Ren had firmly grasped it. Jiang Ren's actions were so swift and precise that no one caught sight of them. All they heard was a clear crisp sound, followed by Yang Quan's agonizing scream. The sound of Yang Quan's distressed cry left everyone in the hall frozen in shock, including Jiang Peihuan. However, she believed that her third uncle was never an impulsive person. You dare to break my brother's hand? Yang Xin looked at Jiang Ren, trembling. In response to her, Jiang Ren's eyes were seething with a dangerous fury as he retorted, "So, you think it's acceptable to cripple others' hands, but it's outrageous when the same is done to you? If that's the case, I'll help young Master Yang reattach it." As he spoke, Jiang Ren lifted Yang Quan's wrist, gave it a gentle nudge, and remarkably, Yang Quan's hand seemed to return to normal. Yet, Yang Quan was in such immense pain that he couldn't muster the strength to scream. Before he could react, Jiang Ren seized his other wrist and using the same technique, he snapped it as well. The agonizing shriek that followed reverberated throughout the grand hall. Jiang Xijin discreetly tugged at Jiang Peihuan's sleeve, whispering in a low tone, "Big sister, I've always thought our third uncle was a gentle man, but now, I don't think so anymore." Upon hearing Jiang Xijin's comment, a faint smile crossed Jiang Peihuan's face. Among the warriors, Jiang Ren was indeed known for his mild-mannered nature. However, even the most amiable individuals, after years spent on a battlefield, couldn't help but harbor some hostility. Their third uncle, she thought, was managing quite well all things considered. "What, you didn't hear my words just now?" Holding on to Yang Quan's wrist, Jiang Ren cast a frosty gaze upon his servants. At his icy words, the servants hurriedly fell to their knees. "Please have mercy, sir, we were merely following orders. Sir, we prostrate ourselves before you in apology. Please spare us." As they spoke, the men hastily bowed their heads towards Jiang Ren. However, Jiang Ren replied coldly, "The person you harmed wasn't me. Can't you distinguish who you should be apologizing to? Master Liu, we were at fault. Please forgive us." Chapter 78. Xiao Nanye arrives to send dowry. Looking at the servants continually kowtowing before him, Liu Hao's eyes were brimming with rage. Yet, when he noticed their heads bleeding from the repeated knocks, he spoke up in a cold voice, "Enough." He shifted his gaze away from the servant and directed his fiery eyes towards Yang Quan. "Although we, the Liu family, are merchants, were not to be trampled on. The idea of my sister becoming your concubine is utterly impossible. Today, it was your Yang family that initiated this provocation. If you harbor resentment in the future, feel free to seek me, Liu Hao." Listening to Liu Hao, Yang Quan's eyes were filled with disdain. However, waves of pain radiated from his hand. Seeing his expression, Jiang Ren's already dark face clouded even further. He tightened his grip and questioned, "Oh, so you started the fight, and now you fear retribution?" No, Lord Jiang, you've misunderstood. I promise, we won't bother the Liu family again." Cold sweat dripped down Yang Quan's forehead, clearly a result of the pain. Upon witnessing the scene, Yang Xin couldn't hold back and voiced out, "Lord Jiang, my brother has realized his mistake. Please, release him. Yang Quan, remember your words today. If I learn that you're causing trouble for the Liu family in the future, I won't spare you." As he spoke, Jiang Ren forcefully lifted Yang Quan's wrist. Yang Quan screamed again, but the wrist pain vanished instantly. "Take your people and leave." Yang Quan rubbed his sore wrist, then glared at his attendant, speaking in a displeased tone, "Let's go." As he passed the Liu siblings, Yang Quan's gaze swept over Liu Xin, his eyes cold and predatory, akin to a venomous snake stalking its prey. Seeing his chilling gaze, Liu Xin couldn't suppress a shudder. Observing this, Liu Hao swiftly moved to shield his sister. Subsequently, the Yang siblings left the Liu household. "Ah Hao, you should get a doctor to examine your injuries," Jiang Ren suggested, his eyes on Liu Hao. "It's just a minor injury. I'm fine. Uncle, Miss Jiang, it's getting late. Why not stay over for the night?" "Thank you, Cousin Liu. However, our mother is still at home, waiting. I'll take Xijin back now." Jiang Peihuan stepped forward, whispering. Having only intended it as a polite offer, Liu Hao naturally didn't insist. Noticing the Liu family still in disarray, Jiang Peihuan turned to Jiang Ren. Third uncle, you should stay. If you decide to stay, I'll go back and inform third aunt. No, I'll return with both of you. After speaking, Jiang Ren looked at Liu Hao seriously. If you encounter the likes of the Yang family again, don't just endure. Send someone to the general's mansion to find me, understood? I will remember, uncle. Rest early, then. I'll take them back to our mansion. The Liu siblings approached to show their respects. Jiang Peihuan and the others nodded at them before turning to leave the Liu mansion. Huan I've put you through some trouble today. It was deep into the night, so instead of galloping, they took a leisurely ride on their horses. Hearing the words beside her, Jiang Peihuan's eyes lit up with a trace of amusement. Third uncle, you're unusually courteous today, aren't you? Seeing the smile in her eyes, Jiang Ren couldn't help but join in the laughter. I'm at fault. I shouldn't be so formal with you, Huan Eldest sister, your martial arts skills have noticeably improved lately. It's not that I've improved, it's that you've fallen behind. You, a man of the Jiang family, couldn't even defeat a good-for-nothing like Yang Quan. It's an embarrassment. Before Jiang Peihuan could respond, Jiang Ren was already casting a discontented look at Jiang Songbai. At this, Jiang Songbai could only show a look of frustration. However, he was well aware that his father always favored girls over boys, so he didn't dare to talk back. Starting tomorrow, apart from your studies at the academy, spend all your time at home training. I will personally oversee your practice. Father, even when you were absent, I didn't neglect my martial arts. Then you must not have put in enough effort, or else how could you lose to Yang Quan? Jiang Songbai fell silent. Father, Yang Quan is several years older than me. Although I didn't defeat him, I didn't lose either. Not winning is the same as losing. Moreover, if it hadn't been for Huan Er's intervention, do you dare say you wouldn't have been at a disadvantage? All right, he was left speechless. Third uncle, could you teach me the move you used earlier? At this point, Jiang Xijin was gazing at Jiang Ren with wide, eager eyes. Jiang Ren glanced back at the young girl and queried, which move are you referring to? The one where you broke Yang Quan's hand then reattached it. You're just a little girl, and you want to learn to break people's hands. Third uncle, please teach me. Under Jiang Xijin's persuasion, Jiang Ren nodded with a smile. Witnessing this scene, a smile filled Jiang Peihuan's eyes. In this life, she was determined to protect her family and loved ones. Huan you've just started to recover. Rest early. Jiang Ren reminded her softly when he sent Jiang Peihuan to the entrance of the plum garden. Seeing the concern in his eyes, Jiang Peihuan nodded and responded with a smile. I understand, third uncle. You should also go back early. Third aunt must be waiting for you. All right, I'll head back to Elegant Garden now. After watching Jiang Ren disappear around the corner, Jiang Peihuan turned and headed inside. She dismissed her maid to rest and then pushed open the door of her room. When did you get here? She looked at the person sitting at the table sipping tea, her eyes wide with surprise. Had she not recognized the familiar scent of the man, she might have mistaken him for an intruder. Xiao Nanye sat quietly at the table without a light, occasionally sipping from his teacup. Had it been anyone else in the middle of the night, she would have been terrified. I've been waiting for you here for almost 2 hours. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's voice, Xiao Nanye responded in a low tone, his voice laced with a hint of grievance. She walked to the table and lit the lamp. In the illumination of the light, she noticed the array of boxes spread out on the table. Not just on the table, the floor was also littered with many more boxes. What are all these? As Jiang Peihuan's gaze fell on the table, the man's interest seemed to pique her. He rose from his chair, moving to stand beside Jiang Peihuan. He smiled and said, "These are the dowry I prepared for you." Dowry? Do you mean betrothal gifts, Your Highness? I didn't misspeak. It's a dowry. As he spoke, he selected a black wooden box from the table and passed it to her. Seeing him single out this box, Jiang Peihuan's curiosity was piqued. Xiao Nanye directly opened the box, revealing that it was filled with large denomination banknotes. Chapter 79. Call me husband. He stuffed the box into Jian Peihuan's hands and said with a smile, Huan this is all the silver I've saved up over the years. I'll give it all to you as your dowry. A quick glance told her there were several million taels of silver. Surprise flashed across Jiang Peihuan's eyes, yet she set the box back on the table. Your Highness, I can't accept this. Why not? My dowry will be prepared by the Jiang family. Moreover, there is no reason for the groom's family to prepare dowry. What your Highness should prepare is the betrothal gift. My imperial brother will handle your betrothal gifts. I want this to be your dowry. He placed the box back into her hands. Before she could voice a protest, Xiao Nanya interjected, Huan my heart is already yours. These worldly possessions are nothing to me. They can't even compare to a single strand of your hair. When you marry into the Cheng mansion, I would have to give these to you anyway. I'm just giving them to you ahead of time. So, will you accept them? There was a hint of affection mixed with amusement in his eyes. Jiang Peihuan could clearly see his sincerity. After a pause, she nodded. All right, I'll accept it. However, it's late. Shouldn't your Highness, Huan were soon to be husband and wife. Shouldn't you change how you address me? I don't want you to use formalities with me. He would feel distant if she did. Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan seemed troubled. After a moment of thought, she looked at him and asked, So, how do your Highness wish to be addressed? If I tell you how to address me, will you do it? A smile suddenly flashed across the man's eyes. For some reason, when she saw the smile in Xiao Nanya's eyes, she suddenly had a bad feeling. Just as she expected. Why don't you try calling me husband? Does your Highness genuinely want to hear that? Xiao Nanya just wanted to tease Jiang Peihuan. In his memory, she always seemed to be calm and steady. Yet when he heard her response, he couldn't hide his anticipation. May I? He asked instinctively. Of course, you may not. Before Xiao Nanya could react, a cold gust of wind blew across his face. He stepped back instinctively and, before he knew it, he was outside, with the door firmly shut behind him. Jiang Peihuan's voice floated from inside the room, It's late. Your Highness, you should go back and rest. The lights went out and Xiao Nanya could only watch her delicate silhouette fade into the darkness. Although he was chased out, Xiao Nanya's eyes revealed a smile. Han Feng, who had descended from the tree, saw Xiao Nanya's expression, flicker of doubt crossed his eyes. Despite being chased out, his master seemed oddly content. The young Miss Mustafa cast a spell on him. Master, shouldn't we leave now? Xiao Nanya had been able to sit inside Jiang Peihuan's room. In contrast, Han Feng had spent hours sitting on a tree, and his back was sore. Let's go. With a soft affirmation, Xiao Nanya sprang into action and disappeared into the night. Inside the house, Jiang Peihuan listened to the fading footsteps, a smile gracing her eyes. She safely stowed the box in her hand and laid quietly upon the bed. The next morning, to Jiang Peihuan's surprise, she found herself waking up half an hour later than usual. Sitting up, her gaze was immediately drawn to the boxes on the table. She hadn't had the chance to examine their contents last night, but now a spark of interest ignited in her. Seating herself at the table, Jiang Peihuan nonchalantly opened one of the boxes, revealing a pink pearl necklace. As she proceeded to open the rest, each contained a rare piece of jewelry. Even for someone like Jiang Peihuan, who'd seen plenty of fine things since childhood, the array of jewels before her was stunning. Young miss. The voice of Yu drifted in from outside the door. Come in, Jiang Peihuan replied, prompting Yu to push the door open. Upon entering, Yu almost tripped over a box. Miss, where did all these jewels come from? Jiang Peihuan's belongings were primarily organized by Yu, so she immediately noticed these pieces of jewelry weren't Jiang Peihuan's. It was sent by King Cheng. King Cheng? Is this the betrothal gift from His Highness? Yu subconsciously spoke, but Jiang Peihuan gently shook her head. No, it's a dowry. What? Dowry? Had Yu not been confident in her hearing, she would have doubted what she'd just heard. Jiang Peihuan nodded, then told you and Lu arrange these items. Well, take them to mother shortly. Yes, young miss. Following a soothing cup of tea, Jiang Peihuan found herself at Shuiyang's residence, Yanglin. Upon seeing Jiang Peihuan, Shuiyang beamed brightly. You're a bit late today. Did yesterday's shopping tire you out? After offering her respects to Shuiyang, Jiang Peihuan softly responded, No, I just stayed up a bit late last night. Well, if you're up late, sleep in. No need to visit me so early. Mother, I came to discuss something with you. What is it, my dear? After a brief summary of last night's events, Jiang Peihuan continued, I've accepted the jewelry already. Therefore, mother, there's no need for you to prepare any additional dowry jewels. Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Shuiyang showed a flicker of surprise, soon replaced by a warm smile. I must admit, I had my concerns about your marriage to King Cheng. But now, I find myself reassured. Huan in my opinion, King Cheng truly cares for you. That's why, Huan I accepted these items. Very well, if that's the case, I won't arrange for any more jewelry. Instead, I'll convert the remaining silver into properties and farmlands for you. Thank you, mother. Jiang Peihuan did not object to Shuiyang's plan. The man she was to marry was King Cheng, a man of paramount status, thus her dowry mustn't appear modest. This wasn't merely about maintaining Xiao Nanyes' dignity, but also the honor of the Jiang family. This concerned not only Xiao Nanyes' reputation but also the Jiang family's reputation. Miss, Lan is here. While Jiang Peihuan was conversing with Shuiyang, Yu approached her and spoke in a hushed voice. Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan's eyebrows furrowed in confusion. What brings her here? Lan was Jiang Ruyun's maid. She didn't mention anything specific, only requested to see you, miss. Let her in. After a brief contemplation, Jiang Peihuan instructed softly. Shortly after, Lan entered. As soon as Lan saw Jiang Peihuan, she immediately knelt on the ground. Miss, I beg for your help. If there's an issue, stand up first and then we can talk. Yes. Lan rose from the ground and looked at Jiang Peihuan. Miss, could you accompany me to the orchid garden? Did something happen to Ruyun? It's not second young lady, it's the second master. Chapter 80. Jianmai entering the mansion second master. Arriving at the entrance of the orchid garden, Jiang Peihuan turned to Lan querying her. However, the answer she got left her momentarily stunned. From Lan's narration, Jiang Peihuan finally grasped the whole situation. After a fierce argument with Zhu Rongfang, Jiang Yuan had left home and didn't return all night. When he did come back in the morning, he was accompanied by a woman. Upon seeing this woman, Zhu Rongfang had lunged forward to strike her, but Jiang Yuan intervened. In the ensuing altercation, Jiang Ruyun was accidentally hit by Jiang Yuan. After piecing together all the events, Jiang Peihuan couldn't help but furrow her brows. Although Jiang Yuan was a man of old-fashioned views, he was not the type to be easily swayed by feminine charms. Lan what's the identity of this woman? I heard, she's a lady from a respectable family. How could a decent lady have any issues with the second master? Hearing this, Yu who was following beside Jiang Peihuan, couldn't help but interject. Lan however, stayed silent as they had already arrived at the orchid garden. Miss, the eldest miss is here. Jiang Ruyun was laying in bed. On hearing the voices, she struggled to sit up. Upon seeing the wound on her forehead, Jiang Peihuan frowned. The white gauze was stained with traces of fresh blood. Did second uncle cause this injury? Father didn't mean to. When I stepped in to intervene, he pushed me away and I accidentally knocked into a chair. The severity of the injuries clearly indicated the force Jiang Yuan had applied. Eldest sister, you must have heard from Lan about the dispute between my father and mother. Hearing Jiang Ruyun's words, Jiang Peihuan nodded in agreement. Looking at the person on the bed, she softly asked, So, you called me here to dissuade second uncle from marrying that woman? Jiang Ruyun nodded, then said in a low voice, Eldest sister, my mother might have a temper, but her love for me is genuine. She deeply cares for father as well. If father brings that woman into our home, it will undoubtedly devastate mother. But you must understand, this is second uncle's personal matter. Even I, or even grandmother, can't stop him if he's resolute. If that woman's background was dubious, we could use that to our advantage. But from what I understand, she's a lady from a good family. Elder sister, is there really no other way? I know you're wise. Please, help me this time. Jiang Ruyun's eyes were filled with desperation, pleadingly looking at Jiang Peihuan. At this moment, Jiang Ruyun no longer had the arrogance from before. After a brief silence, Jiang Peihuan took a seat beside the bed. Then, she asked Jiang Ruyun, how did second uncle come across this woman? After father and mother had their argument, Uncle Meng suddenly sought out father. By the time father returned, that woman was by his side. Uncle Meng came looking for second uncle. Upon seeing Jiang Ruyun's confirmation, Jiang Peihuan's eyes clouded, a look of unease taking over her face. She hadn't expected Meng Yi to be involved in this mess. Even though she had informed Jiang Hong about Meng Yi poisoning Jiang Changbai, there wasn't any concrete evidence. As a result, Jiang Hong maintained caution towards Meng Yi but hadn't distanced himself yet. Considering the person pulling strings behind Meng Yi, a wave of cold hostility flickered in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. She felt that this matter was not that simple. Second Miss Jen has arrived. What's her purpose here? Tell her to leave. Lan entered the room abruptly, but upon hearing these words, Jiang Ruyun's eyes seethed with rage. Seeing her reaction, Jiang Peihuan gently asked, is this Miss Jen the person second uncle brought back? Yes. Lan please invite her in. This. Lan subconsciously looked at Jiang Ruyun. Jiang Ruyun's eyes were filled with confusion. Elder sister, I don't want to see her. No matter what, we should treat our guest with courtesy. Given that Miss Jen was brought here by second uncle, she could be considered your elder. If you dismiss her without a meeting, word might reach second uncle and cause unnecessary trouble. Therefore, let's hear what she has to say. All right then, invite her in. Understood. Moments later, Lan re-entered the room, accompanied by a woman in white. The woman seemed to be in her early 20s. Though not exceptionally beautiful, she exuded a gentle and scholarly aura. Upon seeing Jen Mai, Jiang Peihuan immediately understood why her second uncle had brought her back. This woman's demeanor held a powerful allure for men like Jiang Yuan. Greetings, eldest miss and second miss. Upon entering, Jen Mai immediately bowed to Jiang Peihuan and Jiang Ruyun. Hearing her address, Jiang Peihuan's eyes sparkled with curiosity. How did you figure out my identity, Miss Jen? I've heard that there are 3 young misses in this mansion. However, since the third miss is still quite young, I assumed you must be the eldest miss. Jen Mai's voice matched her personality, incredibly gentle and soft. Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan chuckled, Miss Jen, you're quite sharp. It's no surprise that my second uncle brought you here. You flatter me. Eldest Miss Lord Jiang merely saw my lonely situation and took pity on me, offering me a place to reside. If it's just a shelter you need, the Jiang mansion has several properties available. Perhaps I can arrange one for you, Miss Jen? My second uncle, being a man of simplicity, overlooked the fact that a lady's reputation must remain untainted. This way, we can avoid any misunderstandings within the residence. What do you think, Miss Jen? Eldest Miss, are you trying to chase me out of the mansion? Jen Mai, who appeared calm and gentle just moments ago, abruptly shifted her demeanor upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's words. Jiang Ruyun, who was sitting on the bed, was stunned when he saw this scene. Since Jian Mai's arrival at the mansion, she had always maintained a serene disposition. Jiang Ruyun had assumed she was incapable of getting angry. Miss Jen, you must be kidding, retorted Jiang Peihuan. Ignoring the blatant fury in Jen Mai's eyes, Jiang Peihuan offered a light-hearted smile. However, her eyes were devoid of any amusement. Instead, they were brimming with a cool indifference. Even if you were a common visitor, not to mention a guest my second uncle brought, I wouldn't utter words of sending you away. You mentioned wanting a secure place to stay, prompting me to suggest this solution. Since you are looking for safety, I presumed it doesn't necessarily have to be within the general's mansion. Unless, of course, your idea of safety means being at my second uncle's side. I am not a dishonorable person, nor do I need to cling to Lord Jiang. It was Lord Jiang himself who vowed to take responsibility for me. If the two young misses are displeased with my presence, then I will take my leave. The moment she finished speaking, Jian Mai dashed out, her eyes welling up with tears. Watching her receding figure, surprise flickered in Jiang Peihuan's eyes, but it was quickly replaced with understanding. She knew who this melodrama was intended for. Mai, what's wrong with you? Staring at the teary-eyed Jian Mai, Jiang Yuan looked puzzled. Seeing him, Jiang Mai's tears flowed more freely, yet she managed to smile. Lord Jiang, I am all right. It's all my fault, I upset the two young misses. Please, don't have any disputes with the second young miss because of me. Chapter 81, Jiang Peihuan's probing. Originally, Jiang Yuan maintained a serene expression, but after hearing Jian Mai's loaded words, evident anger flashed in his eyes. He turned and entered Jiang Ruyun's room. However, he paused, surprised to see Jiang Peihuan there. Huan, you're here too? Second uncle, replied Jiang Peihuan, performing a polite bow. If she previously harbored any doubts about Jian Mai, the words just spoken solidified her suspicion. This woman had hidden intentions. Yun, how could you behave so arrogantly and disrespectfully? Isn't this against the manners I've taught you? Jiang Yuan scolded his daughter, his eyes full of disappointment as he stood beside her bed. Jiang Peihuan was stunned hearing these reprimands. Jiang Ruyun was Jiang Yuan's only daughter, and he had always showered her with affection, both in his previous and current life. Now, it appeared he was even willing to scold his own daughter over another woman. While Jiang Peihuan was shocked, Jiang Ruyun was utterly frozen in disbelief. Her eyes welled up and turned red as she stared at her father, her face pale as she questioned, Father, are you ignoring your own daughter for her sake? Jiang Ruyun's eyes were filled with accusation. Initially, seeing her injury, Jiang Yuan felt a pang of regret. But her words brought his simmering anger back to the surface. Second uncle, I think there's been a misunderstanding, interjected Jiang Peihuan, aiming to prevent any further harsh words from Jiang Yuan. Hearing her, Jiang Yuan turned his gaze toward her. A misunderstanding? Yes, it's a misunderstanding. Lord Jiang, you don't need to blame second miss. I am at fault here. I shouldn't have disturbed second miss, it's all. Miss Jen, may I speak with my second uncle first? Interrupted Jiang Peihuan with a polite smile, seeing Jiang Mai was eager to explain herself. Despite her courteous smile, Jiang Peihuan's eyes held not a trace of mirth but only cold indifference. Meeting Jian Peihuan's eyes, Jian Mai's heart skipped a beat. Then, she silently stood aside, putting on a fearful and aggrieved look. Seeing her in this state, a hint of mockery flashed in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. She then turned her gaze towards Jiang Yuan and continued, I heard that Ruyun was hurt, so I specifically came to check on her. I had just sat down when I saw Miss Jen hurrying in. Ruyun wasn't feeling well, and I was about to send Miss Jen home, but considering her well-meaning intentions, I let her in. However, no sooner had she entered than she began spouting off vague statements. Second uncle, you can ask the maids in the room. Nobody insulted her, and no one laid a hand on her. Jiang Peihuan spoke softly, her demeanor calm. Upon hearing her words, Jiang Yuan instinctively glanced at Jian Mai. Spotting his furrowed brows, Jian Mai quickly interjected, Lord Jiang, please don't misunderstand. I just wish to maintain a good relationship with the second miss. After all, we will be family in the future. Family? Earlier in the room, didn't Miss Jen mention that she was only seeking a place to settle down? I was considering offering her a suitable courtyard from the many we have in our residence. What does this idea of family mean? Although her words were addressed to Jian Mai, Jiang Peihuan's gaze rested squarely on Jiang Yuan. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, embarrassment flickered in Jiang Yuan's eyes, but he nonetheless voiced his explanation. I had too much to drink last night and inadvertently offended Miss Jiang, so, so he had no choice but to bring her to the general's mansion. Even though Jiang Yuan didn't finish his sentence, Jiang Peihuan already understood his implication. Hearing this, a faint smile appeared on Jiang Peihuan's lips. She looked at Jiang Yuan and lightly teased, "Second uncle, you've been in the military for many years, yet your tolerance for alcohol remains poor. The alcohol Uncle Meng served last night was too strong." Hearing Meng Yi's name caused Jiang Peihuan's eyebrows to crease. It wasn't likely that the alcohol Meng Yi served was potent, but rather that something was amiss with the drink. If there was an issue with the wine, then there must be a problem with Genmai too, but these were just Jiang Peihuan's speculations. Without evidence, she couldn't take action. "In that case, second uncle, you should accompany Miss Jen home. I'll stay with Ruyun." Jiang Yuan glanced at Jiang Ruyun, noting the wound on her head. He murmured, "Rest well." Having said this, he turned and departed, with Genmai trailing behind him. "Elder sister, why didn't you let me speak earlier?" Jiang Ruyun had tried to interject several times, but Jiang Peihuan had gently held her back. Seeing Jiang Yuan and Genmai leave, Jiang Ruyun could no longer contain herself. Noticing the anger in her eyes, Jiang Peihuan quietly soothed, "I know you're furious right now, but if you genuinely want to help second aunt, you need to stay calm." Jiang Ruyun clenched her fist and took a couple of deep breaths to steady her emotions. Turning to look at Jiang Peihuan, she blurted out, "Elder sister, am I really expected to stand by and watch our father bring that woman into our family? Don't rush things. If I'm not mistaken, Miss Jen approaching second uncle likely has ulterior motives." "Of course she has ulterior motives. She's clearly attracted to the wealth and honor of our general's mansion. I senti she not only that." Upon stealing a glance at Jiang Ruyun, Jiang Peihuan spoke softly. On hearing this, the latter's eyes clouded with confusion. "Eldest sister, what do you mean? You don't have to worry about this. When the time comes, you'll naturally know. I'm only asking you if you want to help second aunt." "Of course." Watching Jiang Ruyun nod firmly, a smile trickled into Jiang Peihuan's eyes. Although Jiang Ruyun had her flaws, her fierce protectiveness of their mother was a commendable trait. "Then do as I say." Confronted with Ruyun's puzzled look, Jiang Peihuan beckoned her closer. Leaning in, Jiang Peihuan whispered a few words into her ear. Whatever Jiang Peihuan had said remained a mystery, but upon hearing her words, Jiang Ruyun's eyes brimmed with bewilderment. "Eldest sister, you're advising me to maintain a good relationship with that woman. What's the meaning of this? Could it be that you expect me to accept her as father's mistress? I've asked you to befriend her so you can keep a close eye on her, to uncover her reasons for approaching our second uncle. It's the only way to prevent him from welcoming her into our home. Otherwise, how could we, being of younger generations, meddle in the personal matters of our elders?" "I understand, elder sister. I will do as you say. Millimeter, you have to tell second aunt about this matter. She tends to act impulsively, so do temper her emotions." "I understand. Then I'll go back to the plum garden first. If there's anything you need, tell Lana to look for me." As she spoke, Jen Peihuan got up from her chair. "Elder sister?" Hearing the voice, Jen Peihuan turned to look at Jiang Ruyun on the bed. "Elder sister, thank you for helping me." Chapter 82. The person behind the scenes. Upon hearing this, a trace of amusement flickered in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. "I've always said, we, as family, share honor and disgrace alike. As long as you're a daughter of the Jiang family, I'll always be there for you. Enough now, take some rest. I've got a scar removal ointment at my place. Later, I'll have Luer deliver it to you. You're a young woman, your face shouldn't bear a scar." "Thank you, elder sister." Jiang Peihuan nodded and left Orchid Garden. Upon returning to her own abode, Plum Garden, she summoned Yi Xiao into her room. "Young miss, you needed me?" These days, Jiang Peihuan was mostly staying at the mansion. Yi Xiao, practically bored to death, was thrilled to be called upon. Jiang Peihuan, oblivious to Yi Xiao's eagerness, thought of Genmai and ordered quietly, "Yi Xiao, I need your help investigating something. What can I assist with? Just command me, miss. Look into Jian Mai's background for me. And find out where my second uncle got drunk last night. Was he genuinely drunk? Jiang Yuan, always in the army, was no light drinker. Not as stout as Jiang Ren, perhaps, but not one to get drunk easily either. The master behind Meng Yi was Xiao Juanhao. The mere thought of the atrocity Xiao Juanhao inflicted on the entire Jiang family in her past life made it impossible for Jiang Peihuan to disregard this. Seeing Jiang Peihuan's grave expression, Yi Xiao assured solemnly, "Rest easy, miss. I'll start the investigation right away. You'll know the outcome soon." "Good, I appreciate your efforts." Without another word, Yi Xiao quietly exited Plum Garden. While Jiang Peihuan was suspicious of Jian Mai, news from the general's mansion reached the Prince Qing's mansion. In the Qing mansion, study room, Xiao Juanhao sat in the main seat. The person sitting next to him was none other than Meng Yi. "Your Highness, we've managed to place our person close to Jiang Yuan." "Jiang Yuan? Not Jiang Hong?" Upon hearing Meng Yi's words, Xiao Junhao's brows knitted, indicating some displeasure. "Your Highness, you might not know, but Jiang Hong and his wife are deeply in love. Jiang Hong won't even touch Jian Mai. Even if he did, he'd never bring her into the general's mansion." "What about Jiang Ren? I hear his ties with the eldest branch of the Jiang family are more substantial. Jiang Ren can handle his liquor exceptionally well. If it were him, I fear he would sense something." In truth, it appeared the Jiang family had grown cautious of him. A piece of information Meng Yi dared not disclose to Xiao Juanhao. "If that's the case, let's proceed with your plan. Instruct Jian Mai to keep an eye on the general's mansion. Any significant intel, she must relay immediately. And, have her keep a close watch on Jiang Peihuan. Your Highness, the Emperor has betrothed the eldest miss to King Cheng. Are we to stand by and let the Jiang family ally with King Cheng? An imperial decree is beyond my control, but luckily she is marrying Xiao Nanye. Though Xiao Nanye is highly influential, he is but an imperial uncle. He lacks the potential to ascend to the throne. This could be seen as a blessing in disguise." Knock, knock, a knock sounded at the door. Xiao Juanhao glanced at Meng Yi. "You can go now. Unless there's something crucial, yes." Upon hearing Xiao Junhao's words, Meng Yi stood up and left. As he walked through the doorway, he saw Lin Mengyaro standing at the entrance. Lin Mengyaro had also noticed Meng Yi. Seeing him sparked a hint of surprise in her eyes. Yet, she remained silent and merely gave Meng Yi a respectful bow. Meng Yi returned the nod before taking his leave. "Yaro, you're here at this time. Is it because there's progress on that matter?" "Indeed." After nodding, Lin Mengyaro smiled towards Xiao Juanhao and said, "The eldest princess has agreed to intercede for you, Your Highness. It's likely that the responsibility for repairing the city moat will fall on you." "Yaro, thank you for your hard work." Upon hearing this, Xiao Junhao's eyes filled with warmth. He gently grasped Lin Mengyao's hand and softly voiced his gratitude. "You give me too much credit, Your Highness. It's all part of my duty. Oh, and I just happened to run into General Meng earlier." "Is he one of your men?" "Yes." Upon witnessing Xiao Junhao's affirmative nod, Lin Mengyao's gaze towards him became even more affectionate. He was a man of strategic foresight. By this time, Meng Yi had already left the Qing prince's mansion. Yet, he couldn't shake the sensation of being watched. It was as if eyes were constantly following him from behind. However, he turned around several times and did not see anyone. Once Meng Yi returned to his own mansion, a figure finally emerged from around the corner. It was Yi Xiao. Looking at the firmly shut door of the mansion, Yi Xiao's eyes reflected both confusion and discomfort. Having entrusted the task to Yi Xiao, Jiang Peihuan waited for an update in the plum garden. It wasn't until nightfall that Yi Xiao entered her room. "Eldest miss." Seeing her enter, Jiang Peihuan set aside the book she was reading. "Did you find out anything?" "This is the information I found when investigating Jian Mai," Yi Xiao said, placing a letter before Jiang Peihuan. She continued, "I discovered that Jian Mai was appointed by General Meng. I even tailed him. He has connections with the Qing prince. Yi Xiao was well aware of the ties between Meng Yi and the Jiang family. So, when she delivered the last piece of information, she couldn't help but steal a glance at Jiang Peihuan. However, her expression remained impassive. Yi Xiao was an intelligent woman and couldn't resist asking, "Did you already know all this, eldest miss?" "Yes. I've known for a while that Meng Yi is in the service of the Qing prince." "So miss, was all of this orchestrated by the Qing prince?" "Not entirely." Hearing this, confusion flickered in Yi Xiao's eyes while Jiang Peihuan studied the letter in her hand. The document detailed Jian Mai's family background. Jian Mai was indeed from a respectable family. Moreover, her father was once a military officer under Jiang Hong, having lost his life on the battlefield. Upon reading this, Jiang Peihuan couldn't help but furrow her brow. "Eldest miss, is there an issue with this information?" "Yi Xiao, did you personally investigate Jiang Mai's background?" "No, I had the people from the Dark Chamber conduct the investigation," explained Yi Xiao, responding to Jiang Peihuan's confused look. The Dark Chamber was founded by His Highness himself, with specific members dedicated to gathering information. Upon hearing this, Jiang Peihuan finally understood. "Miss, I have some other matters to attend to. I'll leave now." Just as Jiang Peihuan was about to respond, Yi Xiao hastily left the room. Soon after, the window was opened, and a man's slender figure abruptly appeared before her. Jiang Peihuan looked at Xiao Nanye, now sitting across from her, with a slight sense of helplessness in her eyes. "Your Highness, have you developed a liking for climbing over walls and sneaking through windows? Surely you realize your garden is teeming with people. If I were to use the front entrance, your brother would unquestionably discover my presence." As Xiao Nanye said this, a trace of helplessness flickered in his eyes. Hearing his words, Jiang Peihuan couldn't help but burst into laughter. Chapter 83, Assassination Attempt. During an outing, seeing the smile in her eyes, Xiao Nanye also smiled. "Your brother treats me as if I were a wolf." "My elder brother is simply worried about me," Jiang Peihuan assured him. "Huan." The moment Jiang Peihuan finished speaking, her hand was held by Xiao Nanye. She instinctively looked at him. His eyes were suddenly ablaze. If it had been before, she would not have dared to meet his gaze. But now, having decided to marry the man before her, she softly inquired, "What can I do for you, Your Highness?" 3 months, it's too long. If it were up to him, he'd marry her at this very instant. However, Xiao Nanye understood this was merely wishful thinking. He could only sneak into the plum garden in the dead of night by scaling the wall, not to mention advancing their marriage. Upon hearing his words, a glint flashed across Jiang Peihuan's eyes. As soon as she realized what Xiao Nanye was implying, a wave of warmth swept over her face. Extracting her hand from his, she spoke quietly, "My parents believe even 3 months is too hasty. Huan, would you accompany me to a certain place?" Recalling the reason he had come here, Xiao Nanye looked at Jiang Peihuan, posing the question gently. Jiang Peihuan was about to decline, but catching the hopeful look in the man's eyes, she found herself asking, "Where to?" "You'll find out when you get there." With that, he reached for her hand. Xiao Nanye's lightness skill was unmatched. Even carrying Jiang Peihuan, when he left the plum garden, no one noticed their departure, except for Han Feng. Looking at the two of them leaving, he sighed softly. Yi Xiao saw him and asked coldly, "Aren't you going to accompany your master?" The master went to great lengths to be alone with the young miss. As his secret guard, how could I intrude? Outside the city limits. At this moment, Jiang Peihuan found herself seated on the back of Zui Yun, with Xiao Nanye positioned behind her. From her early childhood, either in her previous life or the current one, Jiang Peihuan had mastered archery and had never shared a ride with anyone. This was her first time, held in the embrace of a man. Xiao Nanye's hands reached around Jiang Peihuan to grasp the reins. He was exceptionally tall, his stature superior even while seated, causing his breath to brush against her ears each time he spoke. "We've arrived, Huan, he said. Upon viewing the mountain peak before her, A glint of confusion flickered in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. However, once they reached the mountain's top, the panorama took her breath away. The city lay beneath them, bathed in a million lights, the protective moat embracing all its streets. From this vantage point, one could see the whole capital in vivid detail. The sight of the city lights seemingly eased the tension within Jiang Peihuan. "Come," Xiao Nanye gestured as he dismounted his horse and extended a hand towards her. Meeting the man's outstretched hand, Jiang Peihuan placed her own hand in his. After assisting her off the horse, Xiao Nanye released the reins, allowing Zui Yun to frolic nearby. They proceeded to a nearby grassy area where Xiao Nanye casually sat down, patting the spot next to him as an invitation for Jiang Peihuan to join. Sitting beside him, Jiang Peihuan quietly looked at the scenery in the distance. Xiao Nanye remained quiet as well, his attention focused on the woman by his side. This sensation was peculiar. In her previous life, she had bared her soul to Xiao Juanhao, but he never reciprocated with genuine emotions. And now, in this life, Jiang Peihuan glanced towards the man beside her, her lips parting to speak. But before any words could form, Xiao Nanye's face hardened, pushing her away abruptly. A long black arrow flew between them. Immediately, Xiao Nanye sprung to his feet, pulling Jiang Peihuan off the ground and shielding her behind him. 6 men in black descended from nowhere and slowly appeared before them. A fierce determination flickered in Xiao Nanye's eyes as he took in their presence. "Quan be careful." With that, he unfurled his fan and squared off against the 6 black-clad men. Jiang Peihuan could tell that these men were of the same ilk as the ones they had previously encountered outside the Jiang mansion. The only difference being, these 6 were more proficient in their martial skills. But Xiao Nanye held his own, skillfully maneuvering against all 6. Jiang Peihuan swiftly drew her whip from her waist, her attention fixated on Xiao Nanye's movements. "You think you can take this king's life? You overestimate yourselves." At his words, the 6 men in black fell to the ground. But an arrow, jet black and unexpected, shot forth. Only then did Jiang Peihuan notice a figure perched on a distant tree. The 6 men had been a mere diversion, the real threat being the archer concealed in the tree. "Be careful, Your Highness." Jiang Peihuan saw an arrow darting towards Xiao Nanye and immediately swung her whip. The dark whip split the arrow in mid-flight. Nonetheless, Xiao Nanye had to grasp his arm where the arrow had hit, revealing a needle hidden within it. Discarding the folding fan in his hand, Xiao Nanye successfully made the man dressed in black on the tree end his life by slitting his own throat. However, the needle had already pierced into Xiao Nanye's arm. Swiftly, Jiang Peihuan moved closer. "You're wounded." "It's nothing. Just a minor injury." "Death." His words were abruptly interrupted by a bout of bloody coughing. Jiang Peihuan disregarded the risk of revealing her medical knowledge and immediately examined Xiao Nanye's pulse. Upon feeling his pulse, her face turned grave. "This needle is poisoned." "What kind of poison?" "Venom from a cobra." Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's diagnosis, a glint of hostility flickered in Xiao Nanye's eyes, and he coldly chuckled. "She truly stops at nothing. It seems that Your Highness have an idea who is behind this." "It's the Grand Empress Dowager." "The Grand Empress Dowager?" Jiang Peihuan's initial suspicion fell on the princes, but it never crossed her mind that it would be the Grand Empress Dowager. Stunned, she stared wide-eyed at the man before her. Seeing her surprised look, Xiao Nanye smiled slightly. "Are you curious about the motives behind this? Could it be that the Grand Empress Dowager fears you might usurp the throne?" After a few moments of silence, Jiang Peihuan finally spoke in a low voice. Hearing this, Xiao Nanye's eyes revealed some surprise. He hadn't expected Jiang Peihuan to be this perceptive. "That's part of the reason, but not the whole truth." "Quan do you know how to cure this poison?" Without uttering a word, Jiang Peihuan promptly rolled up Xiao Nanye's sleeve, extracted the poisoned needle, then pushed on a ring she was wearing. She used a small knife concealed in the ring to make a finger-length incision on Xiao Nanye's arm. Next, Jiang Peihuan brought out several silver needles and inserted them into precise acupuncture points on Xiao Nanye's arm. Soon, blackened blood began to ooze from the fresh wound. Once the blood flowing from the wound returned to a normal red, Jiang Peihuan withdrew the silver needles and used her handkerchief to carefully dress Xiao Nanyes' wound. Throughout this process, the man remained silent. Once everything was taken care of, Jiang Peihuan couldn't help but question the man before her. "Your Highness, aren't you curious about how I know medicine?" Chapter 84. Send the corpse to the Sinning Palace when you're ready to share. "You will," Xiao Nanya said. This wasn't the first time Head said these words. Head used them before when Jiang Peihuan had pinned the blame for Meng Yi's actions on him. Jiang Peihuan found herself at a loss for words. She was clearly aware of Xiao Nanyes' sincerity, but the more sincere he was, the heavier the burden she felt. She could already feel the man's sincerity, but the more he was like this, the more she felt burdened. Perhaps sensing the change in Jiang Peihuan's mood, Xiao Nanya spoke gently. "It's getting late. We've had our share of the beautiful scenery today. I should take you back." "All right," she nodded. Upon seeing her nod, Xiao Nanya gave a sharp whistle and Zui Yun, his horse, dashed over. He swung himself onto the horse, pulling the reins with his right hand and extended his left hand to Jiang Peihuan. As soon as her hand found his, he gripped it firmly and with a swift pull, Jiang Peihuan was hoisted up to sit in front of him. Glancing at the corpses strewn across the ground, Jiang Peihuan inquired, "What about these bodies?" "Don't worry. I'll have someone take care of it," he reassured. With that, he wrapped his arms securely around Jiang Peihuan and spurred Zui Yun forward with a gentle squeeze of his legs. Once again, they chose to climb over the wall. Han Feng, who was dozing off in a tree, woke at the sound and quickly opened his eyes. "Get some rest," Xiao Nanya advised as he dropped Jiang Peihuan off at her door. Jiang Peihuan's gaze fell upon his injured arm. After a moment of consideration, she softly warned, "Avoid getting the wound wet and remember to change the dressing regularly." "Understood," he nodded. Watching him nod in agreement, Jiang Peihuan turned around and entered the room. "Master, you're injured," Han Feng voiced out his concern in a low whisper, picking up on the scent of blood on Xiao Nanya. "Let's discuss this outside," he dismissed, delaying the conversation. Only after seeing the light from Jiang Peihuan's room extinguish, did Xiao Nanya retreat, with Han Feng in tow. Once they'd left the plum garden, the tenderness that had softened Xiao Nanya's eyes vanished, replaced by a chilling harshness. He turned to Han Feng, his voice cold and stern. "She really believes she can trample all over me. Go to the outskirts and bring those corpses to her," he ordered. "Yes, Master," Han Feng complied, promptly heading towards the outskirts. That night, within the Imperial Palace. Sinning Palace. The Grand Empress Dowager placed great emphasis on her daily wellness routines, but age was relentless, affecting the quality of her sleep. Restlessly, she turned on her bed and opened her eyes. However, upon opening her eyes, she froze. Moments later, her screams echoed throughout the Sinning Palace. Nyang Nyang, hearing the unsettling sounds, the palace maids and old nanny standing guard rushed into the Grand Empress Dowager's chambers, but were met with a horrifying sight. The moment the door swung open, the maid spotted the 7 lifeless bodies sprawled across the floor. She shrieked in horror. "Silence!" One of the old nanny beside the Grand Empress Dowager, agitated by the maid's screams, promptly slapped her. "This servant deserves punishment." Realizing her mistake, the startled maid promptly knelt down, offering frantic apologies to the Grand Empress Dowager. "Leave us." Spotting the Grand Empress Dowager's grave expression, the old nanny ordered coldly. The palace maid was stunned. She hesitated for a few seconds before quickly exiting the room. "What of these bodies?" "Nyang Nyang, these are our people. They were dispatched tonight. So, that scoundrel has deduced that all of this was orchestrated by me." Upon hearing this, the old nanny remained silent, not daring to utter a word. But it was clear as day, this was indeed the outcome. Otherwise, these bodies wouldn't have ended up here. "Has taunting me, proclaiming that I'm powerless against him. Has everything been prepared on our end? Everything has been arranged. Which day did he choose?" Upon the Grand Empress Dowager's question, The old nanny remained quiet for a moment before speaking in a low voice. He chose the night of King Cheng's wedding. A fitting date indeed, the Dowager Empress chuckled. At the general mansion, as the sky had just begun to lighten, Jiang Ruyun found herself hurriedly heading towards the plum garden. "Second miss," greeted Yu her eyes filled with curiosity as she saw Jiang Ruyun entering the courtyard. "Where is elder sister?" "Eldest miss is practicing her skills in the backyard." Upon hearing this, Jiang Ruyun dashed off towards the backyard. Upon reaching the backyard, she found Jiang Peihuan engrossed in sword practice. The swift motion of her blade against the trees and flowers resulted in leaves falling all around her. Jiang Ruyun's eyes widened with surprise at the sight. She had always known of Jiang Peihuan's remarkable martial arts skills, but witnessing her in action was nothing short of awe-inspiring. "Elder sister," she called out softly. Not wanting to interrupt her practice, she held back, waiting until Jiang Peihuan finished before she walked forward, handkerchief in hand. As soon as Jiang Ruyun approached, Jiang Peihuan noticed her. She accepted the handkerchief from her and delicately wiped the sweat off her forehead. Handing the handkerchief back to Yu Jiang Peihuan then turned her attention to Jiang Ruyun. "What brings you here so early?" she inquired. Jiang Peihuan handed the handkerchief to Yu and looked at Jiang Ruyun. "Why are you here so early?" "The woman has left the mansion, elder sister," Jiang Ruyun revealed. Upon hearing this, Jiang Peihuan's eyebrows arched slightly. She had expected Jian Mai to wait a bit longer but seemed she couldn't hold back. Looking at Jiang Ruyun, Jiang Peihuan asked gently, "Did you have someone trail her?" "Yes, Lan is on her tail. I'll change my outfit. Follow me out of the mansion." "Of course, elder sister." A little while later, Jiang Peihuan and Jiang Ruyun left the general's mansion, shortly crossing paths with Lan who had been waiting for them. On spotting Jiang Peihuan and Jiang Ruyun, her eyes lit up with excitement. "Eldest miss, second miss, I saw Miss Jen entering the Pine and Crane Pavilion. Do you know which room she's in?" "I do. I've kept a close eye on her." Hearing Lan words, Jiang Peihuan nodded approvingly. "Good job. Thank you for your kind words, eldest miss." "Elder sister, what's our plan now?" Jiang Ruyun asked. "We wait," replied Jiang Peihuan calmly. She noticed Jiang Ruyun's confused look and explained, "Once we uncover Miss Jen's real intentions, we can successfully remove her from our second uncle's life." But thinking about the information she had gathered the night before, Jiang Peihuan's eyes flickered with complexity. Technically, Jian Mai was the daughter of a noble family, but she was willing to become Jiang Yuan's concubine. Jiang Peihuan had a hard time believing there wasn't an ulterior motive behind it. "Eldest miss, second miss, we're here," announced Lan as they reached the second floor of the Pine and Crane Pavilion, pointing to the farthest private room. Looking at the securely closed private room, Jiang Peihuan guided Jiang Ruyun to a room on the opposite side. Once seated, Jiang Peihuan looked at Lan and Yu and instructed them quietly, "Keep an eye on that room. If their door opens, let me know immediately." "Understood," they both acknowledged, standing by the door, alert and silent. Meanwhile, in the private room across, "Uncle Meng, why have you summoned me?" At this moment, Jiang Mai's eyes no longer had the gentleness in front of Jiang Yuan. Her eyes were full of coldness. Looking at Jian Mai, who was sitting opposite him, Meng Yi whispered Xiao Junhao's instructions to her. Chapter 85, Enemies on a Narrow Road. He then spoke softly, "Mai, when you're in the general's mansion, keep a watch on not just Jiang Yuan and his brothers, but also Jiang Peihuan." "Jiang Peihuan? What for?" Jian Mai's eyes were full of confusion. "Don't question why. It's Prince Qing's command. Just follow it," he explained. Seeing Jian Mai's troubled face, Meng Yi expressed his concern. "Mai, I know you're upset, but you need to bear it for the sake of avenging your father." "Uncle Meng, I understand what you're saying. Don't worry, I'll do as you say. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave now." "Okay, Be careful on the way. Jian Mai nodded at Meng Yi and took her leave. As she exited the room, Yu and Lan hurried to Jiang Peihuan's side. Eldest miss, second miss, the lady from across has come out. Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan and Jiang Ruyun moved to the door. Instead of opening it, they discreetly poked a hole in the door's paper. Jian Mai was seen leaving from the room opposite, but to Jiang Peihuan's surprise, she also caught a glimpse of Meng Yi. Jiang Ruyun had also witnessed this scene. Why is this woman with Uncle Meng? Could she be trying to seduce both my father and Uncle Meng? No, I need to reveal her true intentions. Jiang Ruyun subconsciously wanted to open the door, but was stopped by Jiang Peihuan. Elder sister? How are you so sure it wasn't Uncle Meng who invited Miss Jian? How is that possible? Jiang Peihuan had already formed a guess, but the rest of the Jiang family was still in the dark about Meng Yi's real identity. After some thought, Jiang Peihuan briefed Jiang Ruyun about Meng Yi. On hearing this, Jiang Ruyun was left shocked. She stared at Jiang Peihuan in disbelief, her eyes wide with astonishment. Elder sister, is what you said true? Uncle Meng is a bad person? But that doesn't make sense. Has been with our uncle for so many years, how could he be a bad person? Bad people don't always wear a label that says bad. In any case, keep a close eye on Miss Jian when we get back. But don't make any rash moves. We don't want to spook her. Jiang Ruyun was still grappling with the revelation about Meng Yi. Jiang Peihuan decided not to press the issue further. Once Meng Yi also left the private room, Jiang Peihuan turned to Jiang Ruyun and said, "All right, let's head back. Elder sister, now that we're already out, let's take a stroll before heading back. It's been a while since I've been out for a leisurely walk." Jian Peihuan subconsciously wanted to decline, but seeing the hopeful look in Jiang Ruyun's eyes, she gave a nod. Only for a couple of hours, at most. Great, thank you, elder sister. Jiang Ruyun's smiling eyes brought a soft smile to Jiang Peihuan's lips. Jiang Peihuan didn't mind Jiang Ruyun's naive antics. As long as she didn't cause harm to the Jiang family, Jiang Peihuan would always protect her as a part of the family. Elder sister, let's go to the Linglong Pavilion. I haven't bought any jewelry in ages. All right. Looking at the array of dazzling jewelry, excitement filled Jiang Ruyun's eyes. But Jiang Peihuan remained indifferent. Elder sister, what do you think of this bracelet? At Jiang Ruyun's query, Jiang Peihuan stepped forward. Jiang Ruyun held a white jade bracelet of excellent quality. If you like it, wear it. It's my gift to you. Really? Yes. Seeing Jiang Peihuan nod, the smile in Jiang Ruyun's eyes deepened. But just as she was about to put the bracelet on, it was swiftly snatched away. Master Cao, what do you think of this bracelet? Yang Xin, holding the bracelet shed just taken from Jiang Ruyun, turned to the man beside her with a smile. The man wasn't strikingly handsome, but his gentle demeanor and decent looks made him appealing. Hearing Yang Xin's question, Cao Jun frowned. Miss Yang, it seems this bracelet caught the attention of my lady. Perhaps you might want to consider something else. Cao Jun looked somewhat irritated. His family, the Caos, weren't nobility but they were respectable scholars. He found Yang Xin's behavior distasteful, but he couldn't argue against his parents' wishes. Despite hearing Cao Jun's displeasure, Yang Xin replied nonchalantly, "But I really like this bracelet." She naturally knew that Cao Jun was unhappy. She wanted him to be unhappy. The man she desired was a refined gentleman, not someone ordinary like Cao Jun. Jiang Ruyun's good mood was instantly ruined. Staring at the bracelet now in Yang Xin's hand, she spoke coldly, "Yang Xin, do you always have this compulsion to snatch other people's belongings? What do you mean by snatch? Have you paid for this bracelet? If it hadn't been taken from my hand, I would have already paid. That just means you haven't paid yet. So, now that it's in my hands, it's mine. By Miss Yang's logic, the bracelet belongs to whoever holds it, is that right?" Jiang Peihuan, who had been watching the whole situation, chimed in. At the sound of Jiang Peihuan's voice, a flicker of panic crossed Yang Xin's face, but she quickly regained her composure. "Yes, the bracelet belongs to whoever." Before Yang Xin could finish her sentence, she felt a sudden pain on the back of her hand. Jiang Peihuan had stepped forward, snatched the bracelet from her, and smacked the back of her hand quite hard. Yang Xin looked at her hand, the back of which was now bright red. Seeing this, Jiang Ruyun's eyes filled with surprise. Take it. Make sure you keep your belongings safe. One won't help you retrieve it again. Jiang Peihuan spoke with a calm voice as she handed the bracelet over to Jiang Ruyun. Thank you, elder sister. Jiang Ruyun accepted the bracelet from Jiang Peihuan and immediately adorned her wrist with it. Go pay the bill. Yes, young miss. Jiang Peihuan, you shouldn't overstep. Staring at Jiang Peihuan, Yang Xin said angrily. Yet, Jiang Peihuan showed no reaction, seemingly ignoring her words entirely. Seeing this, Yang Xin is dissatisfied. She turned to Cao Jun who was beside her. Are you just going to watch them bully me? Cao Jun, what are you staring at? Yang Xin realized Cao Jun was frozen in place. Following his gaze, she found his attention was fixed on Jiang Ruyun. Seeing this scene, Yang Xin's eyes were filled with frustration. If Cao Jun's attention was on Jiang Peihuan, she could have tolerated it. But Jiang Ruyun? She was a divorced woman from the Huainan mansion. Even though Yang Xin didn't have feelings for Cao Jun, she felt insulted by his attention on another woman. Cao Jun, don't let yourself be fooled by Jiang Ruyun. She's a discarded wife, sent away with a divorce letter from the Huainan mansion. You can't possibly find such a... Silence. Jiang Ruyun's eyes blazed with fury upon hearing Yang Xin's words. Just as Jiang Peihuan was about to speak up, Cao Jun's voice of rebuke echoed in the room. Chapter 86. Today I will send the matchmaker Miss Yang. As a lady, how can you speak so viciously? Everyone in Jingdo knows that the issue between the second Miss Jiang and the Prince of Huainan was entirely the fault of the Huainan mansion. And to clarify, the Huainan mansion did not issue a divorce letter. They divorce peacefully. You, Cao Jun, have you forgotten the instructions of your parents? She pressed. Do you still want to marry me? Yang Xin was so angry that her eyes turned red. Cao Jun had always been subservient in front of her. Although she didn't like it, she enjoyed the feeling. But now, she wanted nothing more than to kill Cao Jun. At this, Jiang Peihuan laughed lightly and said, Miss Yang, since your heart belongs to someone else, perhaps you shouldn't marry anyone else. What are you blabbering about? Yang Xin stammered. Am I? Could it be that Miss Yang doesn't have a liking for Qing? Shut up. Yang Xin yelled, her eyes flaming with wrath. She glared at Jiang Peihuan, and a question loomed in Yang Xin's mind. How did Jiang Peihuan know? Jiang Peihuan, as if reading her thoughts, mocked, Miss Yang, the truth always finds a way to reveal itself. So, if you don't want others to know, don't do it at all. I see now. Cao Jun laughed heartily. Miss Yang, your coldness towards me now makes sense. It seems you've given your heart to someone else. I will inform my parents immediately. I, Cao Jun, cannot afford to marry you. Having said this, Cao Jun turned to leave. Stop right there. Hearing the voice behind him, Cao Jun halted. Is there anything else, Miss Yang? If not me, who else are you planning to marry? Don't tell me you're considering Jiang Ruyun. Yang Xin's words were hasty, but upon hearing them, Cao Jun burst into laughter. Indeed, I am actually planning to marry Miss Jiang Ruyun. At this revelation, Yang Xin was stunned, as were Jiang Peihuan and Jiang Ruyun. Young Master Cao, a woman's reputation is a matter of great importance. Don't take my sister's reputation lightly. Jiang Peihuan warned, her eyes full of caution as she stared at Cao Jun. Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Cao Jun stepped forward, offering a solemn bow to both Jiang Peihuan and Jiang Ruyun. Eldest miss, I am not playing around. I am entirely serious and will immediately go home to inform my parents. Tomorrow. No, today, I will send for a matchmaker. With that, Cao Jun dashed off. Jiang Ruyun was left stunned, as was Jiang Peihuan. Yang Xin, however, was nearly frenzied. She glared at Jiang Ruyun, her voice laced with ridicule. Jiang Ruyun, you truly have no shame. A lowly widow like you dares to entice. Miss Yang, Jiang Peihuan interrupted, I advise you to watch your words. Otherwise, my whip won't stay idle. Stepping up to Yang Xin, Jiang Peihuan uncoiled her long black whip. You all. Jiang Peihuan, just you wait. This isn't over. After saying this, Yang Xin ran away, leaving Jiang Ruyun and Jian Peihuan alone. What's wrong? Upon turning back, Jiang Peihuan noticed Jiang Ruyun standing there, seemingly lost. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's voice, she regained her senses. Elder sister, I know young Master Cao. You know him? This time, Jian Peihuan was really surprised. Initially, she had thought that what Cao Jun had just said was just a joke. Now that she saw Jiang Ruyun like this, Jiang Peihuan felt that there was a story behind it. After such a thing happened, the two of them did not continue shopping. After getting on the carriage, Jiang Ruyun looked at Jian Peihuan and said, Elder sister, do you still remember that I lived at our maternal grandparents' house for 2 years? Yes. When I was living there, my cousins didn't like to play with me, but a boy from the neighboring house often did. Is this boy from the neighboring house young Master Cao? Yes. Hearing this, Jiang Ruyun nodded. Jiang Peihuan fell silent. Afterwards, the two remained quiet until they reached home. Upon entering the mansion, Jiang Ruyun hesitated before taking Jiang Peihuan's hand. Elder sister, if he truly does come, what should I do? As she spoke, nervousness filled Jiang Ruyun's eyes. Seeing her look, Jian Peihuan thought for a moment and then gently asked, if young Master Cai sincerely proposes to you, would you consider accepting him? Me? Her failure to reject the idea immediately meant tacit consent. If that's the case, then let's go with the flow. But I'm no longer a maiden. How could I marry him? As she said this, a hint of tears welled up in Jiang Ruyun's eyes. Seeing her in such a state, Jiang Peihuan's voice softened considerably. Ruyun, remember this. While appearance matters, it's the soul that truly counts. Young Master Cao must surely know everything about you. If, knowing all this, he still dares to propose, it signifies he doesn't care about your past, or perhaps he deems it unimportant. If so, why worry? Come on, let's go inside. Elder sister, could I spend a little time in your plum garden? Sure. Jiang Ruyun accompanied Jiang Peihuan to the plum garden. Upon entering, they found Jiang Xijin sitting there, visibly bored. Hearing voices, the young girl turned around, seeing Jiang Peihuan and Jiang Ruyun who had just come in. Confusion filled Jiang Xijin's eyes. Eldest sister, second sister? Aren't you busy with your horse all day? How do you find the time to visit me? Dad says that even if I don't need rest, the horse does. He forbade me from riding for the next 2 days. Jiang Xijin's eyes were brimming with resentment as she spoke. Upon hearing this, a smile crept into Jiang Peihuan's eyes. Turning towards Jiang Xijin, Jiang Peihuan gently advised, your Fergana horse was a precious find for our father. If you exhaust it to death, father might not find a second one for you. Eldest sister? Upon seeing the teasing look in Jiang Peihuan's eyes, Jiang Xijin voiced her displeasure. All right, I'll stop teasing you. Tell me, what's the matter? Eldest sister, I want to join the military camp. Hearing this, Jian Peihuan's eyes revealed some surprise. She looked at Jiang Xijin and continued to ask, first, tell me, why do you want to join the military camp? Second brother is just 3 months older than me, and has already in the military camp. Songbai is a man, and men in our family are supposed to join the military camp from a young age. All right, second brother is a man, but you, eldest sister, are a woman. You fought on the battlefield at my age, so why can't I? Elder sister had no choice back then. Now, our family doesn't need a little girl like you taking such risks. Before Jiang Peihuan could even reply, Jiang Ruyun, who was sitting next to them, chimed in first. Chapter 87, Visit to propose marriage. I understand, one Jiang Xijin replied softly. Despite her young age, she grasped the essence of the matter. Yet, she still longed for the military camp. Xijin, why do you wish to join the military camp? 11 Jiang Peihuan gently asked, placing a cup of tea before the young girl. Jiang Xijin lifted her gaze towards Jiang Peihuan, a determined look in her eyes. Eldest sister, I want to be in the military camp. It's my heartfelt wish. 11 Growing up, one was surrounded by the sight of our parents in armor. They were always in the military camp. Our eldest brother joined the camp early, and you, eldest sister, entered the battlefield at a young age. I've been waiting for my turn. One understand the logic behind your words. Second sister. One know that the Jiang family no longer needs me to fight. But am not seeking the battlefield, one yearn for the military camp. 1 am a Jiang daughter, born with a warrior's blood. Jiang Xijin's voice was soft, but it carried a firm resolve. Jiang Ruyun looked stunned upon hearing this, while Jiang Peihuan remained silent. Finally, Jiang Peihuan turned towards Jiang Xijin. The military camp is a harsh place. Once there, being a daughter of the Jiang family won't earn you special treatment. Are you sure you want to endure that? I'm not scared of hardship, Jiang Xijin promptly responded. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Jiang Xijin's eyes lit up with hope. She grabbed onto Jiang Peihuan's sleeve, whispering, Eldest sister, does this mean you agree to let me join the military camp? The thought of joining the military camp brought a bright smile to Jiang Xijin's face. Observing her happiness, Jiang Peihuan's mood lifted, but she couldn't help feeling helpless. I can try speaking to our parents on your behalf, but one can't guarantee their approval. Eldest sister, if you speak to them, they will surely agree. Let us go, 111 accompany you to find them right away. Anxious and excited, Jiang Xijin held onto Jiang Peihuan's hand tightly, worried she might change her mind. Just as Jiang Peihuan was about to speak, a person in a hurried pace followed Yu into the plum garden. The newcomer was Ping the handmaid of Zhu Rongfang. Second miss, the madam wishes for your presence in the front courtyard. Ping delivered her message upon entering the garden. She quickly glanced towards Jiang Ruyun, respectfully awaiting a response. Seeing her anxious look, Jiang Ruyun couldn't help but ask, does my mother need me for something? Ping nodded and disclosed, the representative from the Cao family has arrived. They intend to propose marriage to you. What did you just say? Jiang Ruyun's surprised gasp echoed through the garden. She stood abruptly from her seat, eyes wide in disbelief. At the news, Jiang Peihuan also showed a trace of surprise. Her perception of Cao Jun shifted unexpectedly. She had not anticipated him to be a man of his word. Seeing Jiang Ruyun's shock morph into panic, Jiang Peihuan quietly advised, don't rush, first find out what's going on. Turning to Ping she inquired, who has come to visit? Ping Wana replied promptly, it's Lord and Madam Cao. In QJ Kingdom, it was common for a matchmaker to arrange marriage proposals. However, when a bride's parents personally made the house call, it indicated exceptional satisfaction with the prospective match. This gesture showcased Cao Jun's earnest intentions, you should go to second madam first. Understood. Ping bowed before walking out. Jiang Xijin observed the unfolding scene with confusion. Her gaze traveled from Jiang Ruyun to Jiang Peihuan and finally rested on her eldest sister, Jiang Peihuan. 111 Explain later, Jiang Peihuan reassured her. As for your entry into the military camp, we'll discuss it with our parents tomorrow. For now, you should return to your own garden. Alright, 111 head back then. Understanding Jiang Peihuan's predicament, Jiang Xijin didn't press further. After offering a polite bow, the young girl dashed off. As Jiang Xijin's figure vanished from the garden entrance, Jiang Peihuan turned to Jiang Ruyun and suggested, since second aunt has requested your presence, you should prepare yourself. Go change into something more appropriate. Jiang Ruyun responded nervously, elder sister, can you accompany me? When Jian Peihuan's voice fell, Jiang Ruyun suddenly reached out and grabbed her hand. At the sight of her gripping hand, Jiang Peihuan hesitated. Recognizing Jiang Ruyun's distress, she nodded and replied, all right. Half a TS time later, the two sisters were en route to the front hall. As they approached the main hall, Jiang Ruyun, anxiety evident in her grip, asked, "Elder sister, do one look okay?" As he spoke, there was a hint of unconfidence in his eyes. Upon hearing her words, Jiang Peihuan took a good look at Jiang Ruyun's attire, a light pink dress, adorned with a matching pearl hairpin. This look added a touch of delicacy to Jiang Ruyun. Noticing the doubt in Jiang Ruyun's eyes, Jiang Peihuan spoke softly, "Your makeup is flawless, Ruyun. Remember, you are a daughter of the Jiang family. Stand tall, no matter time or place. Let's go in," she concluded, leading the way inside. Dressed in her usual green outfit, her long hair nearly bundled with a wooden hairpin, Jiang Peihuan couldn't be overlooked. Despite the simplicity of her appearance, her natural charisma commanded attention. Looking at Jiang Peihuan's back, Jiang Ruyun felt a surge of courage. She imitated Jiang Peihuan's posture and slowly walked into the main hall. At this moment, there were 6 people sitting in the main hall. Apart from the Jiang Hong and Jiang Yuan couples, the remainder were the cow couple. Father, mother, second uncle, second aunt. First uncle, first aunt, father, mother. Together, Jiang Peihuan and Jiang Ruyun came forward to greet everyone. On seeing them, Jiang Hong, acting as the elder, nodded in acknowledgement. Then, he introduced the cow couple with a smile. "This is Uncle Cow and Aunt Cow. Huan Ruyun, you should greet them." "Greetings, Uncle Cow, Auntie Cow." Turning to the cow couple, Jiang Peihuan and Jiang Ruyun bowed simultaneously. When she bowed, Jiang Peihuan subtly appraised the couple. Mr. Cow seemed stern, but his eyes were honest. Mrs. Cow, on the other hand, reminded Jiang Peihuan of Liu Xiu. Both were soft-spoken, gentle individuals. When Jiang Peihuan and Jiang Ruyun stood up, Mrs. Cow directly grabbed Jiang Ruyun's hand. "This must be the second miss. You're quite a beauty." To anyone with keen eyes, it was apparent that Jiang Peihuan was more beautiful than Jiang Ruyun. Yet, Mrs. Cow's compliment brought smiles to the faces of Jiang Yuan and his wife. Zhu Rongfang, in particular, looked pleased. Previously, she held little regard for scholarly families like the Cows. However, after the incident at the Huainan mansion, her outlook had significantly changed. "Mrs. Cow, you're too kind," she replied modestly. Chapter 88. Don't let any other woman come close to me, only you. Upon hearing Mrs. Cow's words, Zhu Rongfang responded with a modest smile. "Second madam, one lived in Chizhou for many years and had a good relationship with the young madam of the Zhu family. If you don't mind, please feel free to visit me more often. One can't promise much, but one can assure you that the Chizhou pastries one make are quite authentic." "That sounds wonderful." One was just lamenting about not being able to find such authentic pastries in the capital. "Now that one know this, one hope you won't find my frequent visits bothersome." "Of course not." Upon hearing Zhu Rongfang's words, Mrs. Cow laughed warmly. The two engaged in friendly banter, each full of praise for the other, creating a harmonious atmosphere in the main hall. Sensing the opportune moment, Mrs. Cow cut straight to the chase, turning to Jiang Yuan and Zhu Rongfang. With a soft chuckle, she said, "To be honest, my husband and I are here today because we want to discuss something with both of you." "Please, do tell, madam." At this point, Mrs. Cow's gaze shifted to Jiang Ruyun. "I am here today to propose a marriage for my son. I would like to engage your second daughter as his wife." Though the intent of the Cow family's visit had been anticipated, Jiang Yuan and his wife were still shocked by the directness of the proposal. The Jiang family was thoroughly pleased with this marriage prospect. However, after hearing Mrs. Cow's words, Zhu Rongfang laughed lightly and said, "Marriage is indeed a significant matter, and I need to consult with my husband. How about this? I'll send someone to deliver our response to you tomorrow. Would that be acceptable?" "Of course." When the Jiang family didn't oppose outright, the Cow family knew they had almost secured the match. Therefore, on hearing Zhu Rongfang's response, Mrs. Cow promptly smiled and nodded in agreement. With everything discussed and the sky darkening, the cow couple suggested it was time for them to take their leave. Once the cow couple had left, it was time for the Jiang family to deliberate. Shui Yang turned to Zhu Rongfang and said, "Second sister-in-law, please discuss this thoroughly with your husband. We will head back home now. Thank you for your assistance today, elder sister-in-law." Despite a recent disagreement, Zhu Rongfang smiled and nodded, knowing that Jiang Ruyun's future still depended on the support of the eldest siblings. Jiang Peihuan gave a respectful bow to Jiang Yuan and his wife, then left alongside her parents. "Huan I heard you accompanied Ruyun out of the house today. Do you have any idea about this sudden marriage proposal from the Cao family?" Once they stepped out of the main hall, Shui Yang couldn't resist asking Jiang Peihuan about the surprising turn of events. Hearing her words, Jiang Peihuan nodded, proceeding to recount the day's happenings on the streets. When young Master Cao left, he did indeed mention sending a matchmaker. "But I never thought that Lord Cao and Madam Cao would actually come to propose a marriage tonight. So it seems, this young Master Cao holds genuine affection for Ruyun," Shui Yang whispered to herself. However, thinking of the Yang family, she furrowed her brows. "Brother Hong, do you think this might cause the Yang family to harbor resentment towards us?" Jiang Hong had been silent throughout, quietly observing his wife and daughter's conversation. Only after Shui Yang's words did he speak softly. "Even without this incident, the Yang family was never going to align with us. Given that, we shouldn't concern ourselves over this matter." Even though Jiang Hong's tone was calm, it was laced with a chilling resolve. "Father, Mother, there's something I'd like to discuss with you." "What's the matter?" The topic had finally shifted to Shui Yang's Yang Lin. Upon settling in the living room, both Jiang Hong and his wife turned their attention to Jiang Peihuan. Meeting their eyes, Jian Peihuan briefly told them about Jiang Xijin wanting to join the military camp. Initially, Jiang Peihuan intended to bring it up the next day. However, with the Cao family's proposal being accepted so swiftly, she decided to address Jiang Xijin's matter right away. "Father, one understand that you and Mother are reluctant to see Xijin suffer. But Xijin isn't a child anymore, she has her own dreams. If we persistently deter her, she might just sneak off. Xijin is our family's child. From birth, all Jiang children are destined to be warriors. If that's the case, I believe we should support Xijin." Hearing Jian Peihuan's words, Jiang Hong's eyes revealed a bit of hesitation. He subconsciously looked at Shui Yang. "Yang what do you think?" Shui Yang looked at Jian Peihuan and said unhappily, "With all you've said, did Xijin coax you into advocating for her?" Upon hearing Shui Yang's words, Jiang Peihuan didn't deny it but instead nodded. She then looked at Shui Yang and asked softly, "Mother, do you agree?" "Well, if she yearns to go that badly, let her," Shui Yang said softly after a few seconds of silence. "Father, Mother, it's getting late. You should rest. 111 Take my leave." Seeing Shui Yang's nod, Jiang Peihuan rose, bowed to her parents, then left Yang Lin. "Young miss, the third miss must be thrilled now." Exiting Yang Lin, Yue couldn't help but look at Jiang Peihuan and chuckle. Jiang Peihuan smiled, not saying much. Once inside the plum garden, she told Yue, "It's late. You should rest too." "Understood." Having grown accustomed to Jiang Peihuan spending her nights alone, Yue took her leave right after bowing to her. Upon opening her room door, Jiang Peihuan was greeted by a familiar scent. As expected, Xiao Nanya was casually seated, a cup of hot tea atop the table. She didn't know exactly when it started, but he had developed a habit of visiting her every night. Like tonight, even though Xiao Nanya had planned to rest, he still got dressed and made his way to the general's mansion after settling into bed. "Has your highness become addicted to coming here now?" Jiang Peihuan ignited the table candle and casually cast a glance at the man seated in the chair. She had posed the question without much thought, but to her surprise, he nodded earnestly. "Yes, somewhat addicted." Jian Peihuan was speechless. When she turned around, she noticed the handkerchief she had given him, still wrapped around his arm. A frown creased her forehead, and she asked in a soft tone, "Haven't you changed the dressing on your hand?" "Han Feng is too clumsy. I didn't trust him with it, so one came here." During this explanation, Xiao Nanya took out a bottle of wound ointment and set it on the table. On a tree just outside the door. Han Feng's hearing was sharp. Upon hearing his master's words, the corners of his mouth twitched. Inside the house, Jiang Peihuan eyed the ointment on the table, a touch of helplessness evident in her gaze. Your Highness could have your maids apply the ointment. You know, I don't have maids at my place. Before Jiang Peihuan could complete her suggestion, Xiao Nanya gently interrupted her. Facing her surprised look, he calmly stated, I don't let any other woman come close to me, only you. Upon hearing his words, Jiang Peihuan managed to keep her expression neutral, but a subtle wave of happiness stirred within her. Moving closer, she softly suggested, allow me to change the dressing for you, Your Highness. Chapter 89. Zhenmai was poisoned. As she spoke, Jiang Peihuan settled down, next to Xiao Nanya, gently removing the handkerchief from his arm. The handkerchief was stained with both blood and medication. As she was about to dispose of it, it was swiftly taken from her hand. Seeing the confusion in Jiang Peihuan's eyes, the man lightly chuckled. This is the first gift Huan gave me. I must cherish it. Upon hearing his words, Jiang Peihuan's eyes gleamed with contemplation. Xiao Nanya had given her many things, such as jewelry, medicine, weapons, and more. Yet, she realized she hadn't given him any significant gift in return. Looking at the handkerchief that was taken by the man, Jiang Peihuan secretly remembered this matter in her heart. When the wound was revealed, it looked quite horrifying, even after being treated with medicine. Remembering the men in black, Jiang Peihuan found herself asking, have those bodies been dealt with, Your Highness? I had Han Feng deliver the bodies to their master. Jiang Peihuan remembered the man mentioning that the Grand Empress Dowager was the person behind the scenes. Surprise flashed in her eyes as she blurted out, you sent the bodies to the palace? Yes. His audacity was startling, yet it was entirely in line with Xiao Nanya's usual style of doing things. After carefully applying the medicine to the wound, Jiang Peihuan took a new handkerchief and helped him bandage the wound. Next, she handed him the porcelain bottle that had been on the table. Your Highness, the wound has been bandaged. Please keep this medicine. Keep the medicine. Since I will come here to change the bandage anyway, it will save me the trouble. Was that an implication that he intended to visit every night from now on? Looking at the man before her, a hint of uncertainty lingered in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. As if to verify her guess, Xiao Nanya stood up. I'll come back tomorrow. After saying this, the man walked towards the door. This time, he didn't climb out through the window. As he reached the door, the man turned to regard Jiang Peihuan and lightly chuckled, it's getting late. You should rest as well. When Xiao Nanya exited Jiang Peihuan's room, Han Feng descended from the tree, bowed to Jiang Peihuan, and then followed his master's lead. Watching the man climb over the wall, a smile surfaced on Jiang Peihuan's face. It was already quite late. Jiang Peihuan hadn't been in bed for long before sleep started to claim her. However, Jiang Peihuan was destined not to sleep well that night. Young miss. Jiang Peihuan was a light sleeper, so as soon as she heard a noise at the door, her eyes flew open. What's the matter? The one who knocked was you. Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's voice, she gently pushed the door open. Once she reached the bedside, she spoke in a low voice, eldest Ivelis, there's been an incident in Fang Yuan. Miss Jiang, the second miss urgently requests your presence, said Lan her voice strained with anxiety. Stirring from her bed, Jiang Peihuan turned towards Yu. Could you bring me my clothes, please? With Yu's assistance, Jiang Peihuan swiftly dressed and donned her coat. Stepping outside her room, she spotted the anxious Lan waiting in the courtyard, with Yi Xiao standing nearby. Eldest miss, Lan promptly greeted as Jiang Peihuan emerged. What's the matter? Jiang Peihuan asked, making her way toward the courtyard while keeping her eyes on Lan. From Lan narration, Jiang Peihuan came to grasp the situation. Zhenmai had been poisoned, and all the evidence was pointing towards Zhu Rongfang. An intense quarrel had ensued between Jiang Yuan and Zhu Rongfang, causing an atmosphere of fear to grip the household staff of Fang Garden. Unable to handle the situation, Jiang Ruyun had no choice but to seek Jiang Peihuan's help. Just as she reached the entrance of Fang Garden, the uproar from inside reached Jiang Peihuan. Pausing for a moment, she waved at Yi Xiao. Catching her signal, Yi Xiao promptly stepped forward. "I need you to carry out a task, but make sure you don't draw attention." Jiang Peihuan leaned in, whispering specific instructions into Yi Xiao's ear. Understanding the orders, Yi Xiao nodded. "I'm on it, miss," she said, then slipped away into the darkness. Once Yi Xiao was out of sight, Jiang Peihuan, with Yu by her side, proceeded to enter Fang Garden. Inside the main hall of Fang Garden, a heated argument was in full swing. "Jiang Yuan, have all our years as husband and wife led you to perceive me as a villain?" Zhu Rongfang's eyes blazed with fury as she stared at Jiang Yuan sitting across from her eyes brimming with unshed tears. On hearing this, Jiang Yuan let out a cold, bitter laugh. "Villain, you say? You poisoned the soup with arsenic, a substance that can take lives. Is that not villainous? I've already told you that I didn't put in the poison. It has nothing to do with me, then who else could it be? You're the one managing everything in Fang Garden." Jiang Yuan coldly interrupted Zhu Rongfang's defense. She recoiled, her eyes filled with both anger and a trace of hurt. Upon hearing the commotion from outside, Jiang Peihuan rushed forward. "Second uncle, second aunt." Seeing the sudden appearance of Jiang Peihuan, the anger on Jiang Yuan's face somewhat subsided. Only after Jiang Peihuan had performed her courteous bow, did he murmur, "Hua ear, why have you come over so late? I invited elder sister here." Just as Jiang Peihuan was about to speak, the voice of Jiang Ruyun echoed from the doorway. Upon entering the main hall and paying her respects to Jiang Yuan and his wife, Jiang Ruyun reached out and took Zhu Rongfang's hand. "Mother, are you all right? Yun your father, has driving me to my grave." Initially, Zhu Rongfang had managed to keep her composure, but when she saw her daughter, she could no longer hold back her tears. Seeing Zhu Rongfang crying with tears in her eyes, Jiang Ruyun's eyes were also a little upset, but he still patiently comforted her. "Mother, don't cry first. Things haven't been clarified yet." After comforting Zhu Rongfang, Jiang Ruyun turned her attention to Jiang Yuan. "Father, I know mother can be somewhat assertive, but she would never commit such harmful acts. So, father, please don't jump to conclusions about this matter." Upon hearing Jiang Ruyun's words, Jiang Peihuan, standing to the side, showed a flicker of surprise in her eyes. She halted, pulling back the step she had been about to take. The Jiang household was large, and with the crowd came a multitude of affairs. If she had to take care of everything herself, she would surely be worn out in no time. Jiang Yuan, despite maintaining a stern expression, exhibited a softer tone towards his only daughter. "Your mother oversees everything in Fang Garden. She was the one who instructed the preparation of the soup. If not her, who else could be behind the poisoning?" At his words, Zhu Rongfang's newly calmed emotions flared up in anger once again. But just as she was about to voice her objection, Jiang Ruyun firmly held her back. Giving her mother a slight shake of the head, Jiang Ruyun turned towards Jiang Yuan. "Father, perhaps it would be best if I took the reins on this matter. I assure you I will investigate this thoroughly. Regardless of the outcome, I will produce the necessary evidence." Hearing Jiang Ruyun's words, Jiang Yuan's brow furrowed, his eyes reflecting a hint of uncertainty and conflict. That's when Jiang Peihuan softly interjected, "Second uncle, this matter involves second aunt's honor. I think a comprehensive investigation is crucial." Chapter 90. Show one's true colors. Okay, given the circumstances, Yun you have 3 days. 3 days from now, if you can't clarify that this matter has nothing to do with your mother, I will bring Miss Jian into our house. No one can stop me. With these words, Jiang Yuan made his exit from the main hall. Upon his departure, Zhu Rongfang sank, almost collapsing into the chair. Mother! The sight of Zhu Rongfang in this state evoked a pang of sympathy in Jiang Ruyun. She wanted to comfort her mother but was at a loss for words. Seeing her daughter's concern slightly improved Zhu Rongfang's demeanor. Yet, as she watched the direction of Jiang Yuan's departure, her eyes were still filled with resentment. After all, she said, your father just wants to bring that woman home. Mother, now is not the time to dwell on these matters. It's late, you should go rest. One promise one will thoroughly investigate this issue. But for these 3 days, please avoid any conflicts with father. Any concerns can be addressed once we've proven your innocence. Zhu Rongfang didn't have high hopes for Jiang Ruyun, but she couldn't ignore her daughter's sincerity, so she simply nodded. After Zhu Rongfang's departure, exhaustion enveloped Jiang Ruyun, and she collapsed onto the chair. At that moment, a cup of tea was brought to her. When Jiang Ruyun looked up, she was met with the smiling eyes of Jiang Peihuan. Thank you, elder sister. After accepting the tea from Jiang Peihuan, Jiang Ruyun expressed her gratitude in a soft voice. After a couple of sips of tea, Jiang Ruyun turned her attention to Jiang Peihuan. Elder sister, about today's events, your actions today were exemplary and pleasantly surprising. Elder sister, everything I did today was learned from you. When she initially received the news, Jiang Ruyun was in total chaos. Her immediate instinct was to send Lan to find Jiang Peihuan. Remembering Jiang Peihuan, she started to recall how she handled situations when they occurred. This reminiscing allowed her to regain her calm, which led to her composed response earlier. Upon hearing Jiang Ruyun's words, Jiang Peihuan's eyes revealed a hint of surprise. She picked up her teacup and took a few sips. Once she had set her cup down, she turned her gaze towards Jiang Ruyun. So, how do you plan to go about the investigation? I don't know. Elder sister, can you help me? Jiang Ruyun seemed slightly awkward as she asked the question, assuming that Jiang Peihuan might reject her outright given this was a matter involving the second branch of the family. Unexpectedly, Jiang Peihuan nodded and stood up. Let's go and visit Miss Jiang first. Visit her? Jiang Ruyun looked uncomfortable with the idea, but seeing Jiang Peihuan's nod, she didn't voice any further objections. Miss. No sooner had they exited the main hall than they saw Yi Xiao approaching them. Seeing her, Jiang Peihuan halted. Well, as per your instructions, I've brought Miss Jian's soup. Yi Xiao reported, carrying a basket. Have you inspected it? Yes. The soup indeed contains arsenic. The quantity is not small either, about 2 taels. Yi Xiao had a solid background in medicine. Hearing her report, Jiang Peihuan's eyes glinted with a tinge of mockery. Store the soup safely. Turning to Jiang Ruyun, she suggested, let's visit Miss Jian. Confusion filled Jiang Ruyun. As she trailed behind Jiang Peihuan, she found herself reaching for her hand. Elder sister, why did you ask Yi Xiao to bring the soup? Do you know the amount of arsenic needed to poison someone fatally? Though Jiang Ruyun lacked medical knowledge, she knew that arsenic was a potent poison. A small amount should suffice, I suppose. Instead of answering her directly, Jiang Peihuan turned to Yi Xiao. You explain it to the second miss. Under normal circumstances, 5 taels of arsenic can poison a person to death. The quantity in this soup is enough to kill more than 10 individuals. Upon hearing Yi Xiao's explanation, Jiang Ruyun lapsed into deep contemplation. A moment later, her eyes were ablaze with anger. She must be pretending. Given the amount of poison in the soup, if Jiang Mai had really consumed it, she'd be dead by now, not comfortably lying around. Recognizing Jiang Ruyun's understanding, Jiang Peihuan offered a knowing smile. Whether she's feigning or not, we'll find out when we see her. Jian Mai lived in the backyard of Fang Garden. Jiang Ruyun led Jiang Peihuan to a courtyard gate. Elder sister, this is the place. Taking in the courtyard, Jiang Peihuan had to admit, her uncle had been quite generous to Jian Mai. Lana, go knock on the door. Yes, miss. Is anyone in there? At Jiang Ruyun's command, Lana stepped forward, knocking on the door while calling out. There was no response from within, though the bright lights indicated someone was home. After knocking for what felt like an eternity, Lan returned to Jiang Ruyun. Second miss, it seems like no one is responding. Yi Xiao, open the door. Understood, miss. Yi Xiao advanced to the courtyard door. When she was just a step away, she lifted her leg and gave a forceful kick. The door swung open instantaneously. Witnessing the scene, both Lan and Jiang Ruyun stood in stunned silence. However, Jiang Peihuan coolly prompted, "Let's go inside." Jiang Peihuan and Jiang Ruyun had barely stepped into the courtyard when they saw several people hastily approaching them. "So it's the first miss and the second miss. I thought we had an intruder," said she, a maid attending to Jiang Mai. Upon seeing her, Jiang Ruyun bluntly addressed, "Eldest sister, and I specifically came to see Miss Jen. We've been waiting at the door for a while. Didn't any of you hear the knocking? Second miss, please accept our apologies. We were all inside caring for the young lady and didn't hear any noise." This was clearly an excuse to make a big deal out of the situation. Jiang Ruyun's eyes were filled with anger. Upon seeing this, Jiang Peihuan, standing nearby, softly interjected, "One assume Miss Jen's condition must be quite severe. Please lead us to see her." As she spoke, Jiang Peihuan walked straight ahead, but Xia reached out and stopped her. "Eldest miss, the young lady has already fallen asleep." Before Xia could finish her sentence, Lana stepped forward and delivered a hard slap to her face. Xia covered her face with her hand, glaring at Lana with anger in her eyes. However, Lana seemed entirely unconcerned. She only said with a scornful tone, "Who do you think you are to stop the first and second miss? Elder sister, let's go." Jiang Ruyun said without even looking at Xia, but rather addressing Jiang Peihuan. With that, the two ladies proceeded straight towards Jen Mai's room. Just as they reached the door, it swung open from the inside to reveal Jen Mai, pale-faced, standing at the entrance. "First miss, second miss, my deepest apologies. 1. Why are you just standing there? Can't you see that Miss Jen is weak? Help her onto the bed, now." Without waiting for Jen Mai to finish her sentence, Jiang Peihuan turned to the maids beside her. Immediately, Yi Xiao and Lan rushed to support Jen Mai. Chapter 91. Confrontation with the medicine apprentice. After assisting Jen Mai into her bed, Yi Xiao acknowledged Jiang Peihuan with a subtle nod. However, lying in bed, Jen Mai wore an irritated expression. She shot a cold look at Jiang Ruyun and Jiang Peihuan, then said, "Eldest miss, second miss, I'm not feeling well and need to rest. Could you please leave? You're nothing but a liar." The moment Jen Mai finished her sentence, Jiang Ruyun's eyes flashed with rage as she yelled at her, "You intentionally set up my mother." At the sound of Jiang Ruyun's accusation, a flicker of panic passed over Jen Mai's eyes, only to disappear swiftly. She turned to face Jiang Ruyun, wearing a smile. "Second miss, I'm afraid one don't understand what you mean." Although Jen Mai had swiftly recovered her composure, Jiang Peihuan had kept a steady gaze on her, catching the brief guilt in her eyes. Jiang Ruyun didn't let up. "You accused my mother of poisoning you. Do you even know how much poison was supposedly in that soup? 2 taels worth. If you'd indeed consumed the soup, you would be dead by now. So, you weren't poisoned." Hearing the initial part of Jiang Ruyun's statement, panic flickered in Jen Ai's eyes once more, but by the end, she'd regained her composure. She turned to Jiang Ruyun, her voice steady. "Second miss, I'm not sure why you're making such unfounded accusations against me. If you believe I'm poisoned, why not get a doctor to verify it? Why resort to unfounded claims? Indeed, you've been poisoned by arsenic. But the dose you've ingested could only inflict some harm to your body, certainly not lethal." Jen Mai's words were followed by Jiang Peihuan's calm retort. Settling into a nearby chair, she continued, "Miss Jen, if I'm not mistaken, you were the one who added the arsenic to the soup, right? Your ignorance about medical matters led you to believe that just adding the poison would work, but you didn't consider the mismatch between the dosage and your symptoms. Those are mere conjectures. Do you have any concrete evidence? She stared coldly at Jiang Peihuan. Jiang Peihuan voiced a chilled whisper, the evidence will present itself soon enough. No sooner had Jiang Peihuan's words settled, a commotion arose from outside. Following this, Deputy General Liu led a man into Jian Mai's room. Upon seeing the man, Shi Er's eyes lit up with a tinge of panic. Surprise flitted across Jian Mai's eyes, but she didn't display a hint of worry. She directed a contemptuous gaze at Jiang Peihuan. Miss, what's the meaning of this? Miss Jian, have patience. All will be revealed shortly. As the time to sip half a cup of tea passed, both Jiang Yuan and Zhu Rongfang entered Jian Mai's room. Observing the situation, Jiang Yuan's eyebrows furrowed. Turning to Jiang Ruyun, he asked, Yun have you discovered something? And who is this man? Jiang Ruyun looked at Jiang Peihuan. After receiving her nod, she turned to her father. Father, this young man is an apprentice from the 100 Herb Hall. The arsenic found in this soup was bought from him by Shi Er. Shi Er bought it. Jiang Yuan was shocked by this information. His gaze instinctively went to Jian Mai, only to find her eyes brimming with tears, her head shaking incessantly. Taking note of her reaction, Jiang Yuan's expression turned icy as he fixed his eyes on the apprentice. Let me ask you, did this made truly buy arsenic from you? In response to Lord Jiang, indeed someone from your household bought arsenic from me, but it wasn't this young lady here, but that one over there. The apprentice raised his hand, pointing straight at Ping Er, who was standing next to Zhu Rongfang. No, I didn't. You're lying. I've never bought any arsenic. Madam, so it was indeed you. Upon hearing the apprentice's words, fear took hold in Ping Er's eyes. Jian Mai, her eyes filled with tears, looked towards Zhu Rongfang, who was visibly stunned. Jiang Ruyun was also stunned, her gaze fixed on the apprentice. You're spouting nonsense. You, enough. At this juncture, Jiang Yuan raised his voice, his eyes reflecting his irritation. Turning towards Zhu Rongfang, Jiang Yuan's eyes were dark and his words heavy. Initially, one thought your only flaw was a bad temper, now it seems that you, second uncle? Before Jiang Yuan could finish, Jiang Peihuan interjected. Seeing that Jiang Yuan was looking at her, Jian Peihuan said softly, Second uncle, the matter has not been investigated clearly. You cannot accuse second aunt just like that. Isn't the matter clear enough? The apprentice has already spoken. But that's just one side of the story. Initially, Jiang Ruyun's eyes reflected nothing but panic. However, when she saw Jian Peihuan's indifferent appearance, her emotions suddenly calmed down. Rising to her feet, Jiang Peihuan approached Jiang Yuan, her voice soft. Second uncle, ordinarily, this matter would only concern you and second aunt, and one shouldn't interfere. However, our Jiang family has always been united, which is why one took the liberty to intervene. Please forgive me. Second uncle, may I ask this apprentice a few questions? Go ahead, Jiang Yuan allowed, causing Jiang Peihuan to nod in acknowledgement. Turning to the apprentice, Jiang Peihuan's demeanor was calm, her voice gentle. However, her words instantly threw him into disarray. You claim that Ping Er purchased the arsenic from you, correct? Following her gaze to Ping Er, the medicine boy nodded almost instinctively. Very well. If Ping Er was indeed the one who purchased the arsenic, one have a few questions. When did she make this purchase? Before the apprentice could speak, Jiang Peihuan preempted him. Think before you answer, our servants need to report when they leave the premises. If she was on duty at the time you claim, your story won't hold up. Moreover, she must have paid you for the arsenic. Did she use silver notes, coins, or perhaps copper? Finally, do you remember what color her clothes were when she came to buy the arsenic? With each question Jiang Peihuan asked, the apprentice complexion grew paler. Eventually, he gritted his teeth and muttered, One was too busy at that time, so I can't recall. Jiang Peihuan responded, It's understandable to forget given the heavy traffic at the 100 Herb Hall. But as one remember, the hall keeps a record of everyone who makes a purchase. Turning back to Jiang Yuan, she continued, Second uncle, why don't we have the proprietor of the 100 Herb Hall bring their ledger? We can check if Ping Er was at the mansion when the arsenic was supposedly purchased. If she was, Then this medicine boy must be lying. Deputy General Liu, bring the manager of the 100 Herb Hall here, commanded Jiang Yuan. Yes, sir. As Deputy General Liu made to leave, the apprentice, filled with panic, cried out, "No, don't, please, spare me. I lied." At his confession, Jiang Yuan's eyes narrowed dangerously. His voice was icy cold as he declared, "Speak the truth quickly, or I'll have you thrown in jail." You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.